Alright, so I've heard that this is very much like a discussion from the POV of the devs, whereas there's another one which is like the POV of the players. But I'm very much interested in learning more about the developers themselves, you know, their philosophy, their design philosophy, because I know about a lot of the cases with WoW, like with the devs' viewpoints and their philosophy on the design of the game, and I know a lot of their faces and their voices and all that stuff. And so I would like to get to know a little bit more about the Final Fantasy devs, which is why we're doing this one.
Square is buried deep into the culture of Japan. Originally a spin-off from Masafumi Miyamoto's father's Powerline construction firm, for over 30 years its games have helped power the rise of Japanese games development. There are no shortage of games that live under the Square Enix banner, but none as
Is it too loud or is it okay?
big as Final Fantasy. From our Western perspective, there's an air of mythos around the company. The accepted truth behind the series' title is that it was named Final Fantasy as it was Square's make-or-break game to avoid impending bankruptcy. And even if the real answer has more to do with creating an acronym that could be pronounced by both Eastern and Western audiences, it's that first story that gets told. That's the legacy of this series. Stories about adventures that get passed from generation to generation, as nearby as the arcades of Akihabara and as far as the playgrounds of Europe. As the Final Fantasy series has moved from numeral to numeral, there have been high points and low, but with each new game comes the promise of a new story, a new myth. The story of what happened with Final Fantasy XIV is one such myth. What we know about it comes from old reviews, archived message board threads, and through conversations with those who were there. The reason for this is that the original version of Final Fantasy XIV doesn't exist anymore. Unlike the vast majority of other old games, there is no way of playing it. It was redacted, painted over. Where once stood a game that threatened to sink the Final Fantasy brand forever, now stands the second most popular subscription MMO in the world. And
that's an amazing achievement, by the way. That is insane. That it could have been the end of the franchise, and yet that's incredible. That is such an amazing achievement. So, power to the devs for making that happen. You know, even if they do miss voice acting in the game in parts, that's okay. I don't mind.
As the years pass us, the myth of that original version and its incredible redemption story are at risk of disappearing. How did it all happen? How did the same studio that shipped a broken mess turn it all around in 2 years? Why did they make the decision to keep the old version still alive while secretly working on a brand new game? And how did they manage to make all of this, the redesign and rebirth, part of the game's lore? We knew this was a story worth telling, not only for those who were there to see it all go down, but for the millions of you who have never heard about this, who never knew the extraordinary lengths the development team went to save this game. So we did just that. Pack your bags, friends. Noclip is heading to Tokyo.
Is that based in Tokyo? Okay. I've never been to Tokyo. I've been to Osaka. I've been to Osaka 3 times. Yeah, Yoshi-P went looking for coins under the sofa. That's how he managed to make the game. Osaka is amazing. I mean, I've never been to Tokyo, but it basically looks like this anyway. Make me want to go back. I want to try and plan a... Oh, that was cool. I want to try and plan a trip to Korea next year. For me and my partner. I really want to go to Korea. And maybe I'll do Japan in the same trip, because... why not? Yo! It's me doing 8th aerobics 2 times speed. Yeah, I can increase my own audio. The video seems really, really, really loud to me. I don't know how it's not too loud for you guys. Like, it's blowing my ears off. maybe the music. I'll just turn this down a little bit and then see. Yeah, music's really loud. Okay. Okay. It's loud. We just like it. All right, that's fine. It also would help if I'm talking to the microphone. Part 1, 1.0.
Hello and welcome to Shinjuku, Tokyo.
Wait, okay, it's 1.0. I thought that was like a joke on how Japanese people would say like pointo. You know what? Doesn't matter. It's fine. I thought that was a good one. You know what? It's fine. Don't worry about it. I thought, you know, it's fine. It's fine. But maybe it is a joke. I don't know, bro. 1.0,
Hello
okay.
and welcome to Shinjuku, Tokyo, home of Godzilla, restaurants full of dancing robots, and Square Enix, one of the most prolific video game companies in the world. For the past few months, I've been playing catch-up with this story, playing the latest version of the game, talking to players, and watching community retrospective series like the Speakers Network's fantastic Fall and Rise of Final Fantasy XIV. My goal, to make sure we ask the right questions when we sat down with the team. During our time here in Shinjuku, we're going to talk to everyone from the engineers who worked on the original game, to localization leads, community managers, and even the CEO of the company. All to allow them the opportunity to tell their side of this fascinating story. The fall and rise of Final Fantasy XIV happened in real time in front of millions of people around the world, but we wanted to know about this story from an entirely new perspective, from inside the corporate machine that made it happen, that led to its terrible launch, and ultimately, its incredible rebirth.
So this was made in Shadowbringers. How long ago was, 6 years ago, okay.
My name is Michael Christopher Koji Fonks. I am the English localization lead for Final Fantasy XIV. My middle name being Koji, it's not something I gave myself, it's a name my father gave me. My father was stationed in Japan for 2 years in the Navy when he was young.
Oh, cool.
Went back to the States. My mom had me. They wanted to give me a Japanese name. The family was having none of that, so they kind of snuck it in the middle name, but then they always called me Koji. And so I guess the joke was on the rest of the family. You know, my dad being in the Navy didn't really learn a lot about Japan other than he really liked Japan, but didn't learn any of the language. So I always knew that my name was Japanese, but beyond that, I really didn't know anything about Japan. But there was always that little seed in there. And then when I got into high school, there's a Japanese class, and I like games. Oh, they make games in Japan. Hey, let me study Japanese. If I study Japanese, I can play all those cool Japanese games that never come out over in America. And it kind of just snowballed from there.
That's neat.
When I graduated from high school, I took a trip to Japan for 3 weeks, homestay type of thing, and I fell in love with it. And during that period, I got to visit a lot of schools. And a lot of English classes in those schools. And I thought, wow, I could probably I know English, I could do this, this'll be easy. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, but I studied a couple years at a university in America, then transferred over to Japan,
Yeah, this is where like everyone, now I understand why your expectations for me, chat, when I mispronounce samurai spell names. The reason is because you genuinely expect me. You're like, oh, well, Koji learned Japanese so he could play Japanese games. Why don't you learn Japanese, Sai, so you could play Japanese games?
Over 4 years at a university in Japan.
Wow.
Got my teaching license, and yeah.
It's hard work being a teacher.
Yes, I mean, I loved it, but I mean, it was very draining. And that's why pretty much after you'd go to school, 6 in the morning, for morning basketball practice, because I was the basketball coach, because as my principal said, hey, you're tall, you're the basketball coach. Then you get into classes. I mean, I'd have my homeroom class, then I'd have, 6 or 7.
Wait, how tall is he?
Other classes, teaching, then you'd have after school, all of a sudden it's, oh, there's after school basketball, and then you'd get home and you'd correct. So I was really, always at school.
That's a lot of hard work,
It was very
man.
draining, and I would go home and I would play FF11. It was how I was able to relax, and being able to go into my little room and turn off the lights and put on my headphones and get into that world of Vana'diel was something that helped me escape from the stress. And then it just happened to be, one day I was online, checking for 11 related information, and I saw that Square Enix was hiring, looking for a translator, and it just kind of, wow, that would be really cool.
That's awesome. Because I was going to say, oh yeah, when did he get into game development then? Like, when did he actually... But of course, he's the localization lead, so he's just there, sort of translate and stuff. But I guess he gets to put a lot of his own flair and stuff and his own take on things into it, because he designs the quest, like Thor's Balls and stuff like that. Like, he gets to design that because, it's up to him. So he can have a big effect on the shape of the game. So it's really interesting that he's not like a game dev. Okay, well, he is. But what I mean is he's not like like designing the game piece by piece, but he's still has a big impact on it just with language.
Koji wasn't alone. Final Fantasy XIV was launched in 2010, but the story of this game starts 8 years earlier with the launch of Final Fantasy XI, Square's first MMO, the early days of online. Many of the team who worked on 14 started on 11. One of those was Kasuga-san, who joined the company in 1999 to build a network infrastructure for this fledgling MMO.
自分はネットワークとサーバー担当なので、一番最初にやっていたのが、当時プレイステーション2で初めて、厳密にはドリームキャストがその前にあるんですけれども、プレイステーションプラットフォームとしては、オンライン要素が入った初めての時期だったので、プレイステーション2でネットワークを作るために、TCP/IP のドライバーを作ったりとか、まだ当時モデム通信の時代だったんで、PPP 通信とか、あと ADSL がちょうど普及し始めた時期だったんで、ADSL の認証として使われた PPP とかっていう本当にネットワークの下の部分、今だとあんまし誰も書かないようなところを書くっていう担当で入社してました。
11に関して言うとね、スクエアエニックスって言いますか、スクエアが初めて、オンラインのあれだけの規模の、MMORPG 日本でやるっていうのはもう本当初めてだったんで、いやもう正直いろんなことがありましたよ当時ね。こんな言っちゃっていいのかな？言っちゃっていいの？OK なの？いいんだ。まずね、どういうことがあったかというと、あの時はMMO とかね、海外例えばウルティマとかそういった先行事例あるんだけど、基本的に PC ですよね。で俺らが今週末期でやるなんてもう無謀の極みだとかってね、もうたくさんそういうふうに言われました。その PS2 のハードディスク BB 機とかですね、もう何台出すんだとかそういうのを吸ったもんだしていろんなことがありましたので、ほとんど不可能だとかでよく言われてましたよ、実際には。成功なんて。
11 was my first MMO. I hadn't played one before. I remember purchasing the PlayStation 2 broadband unit because they were all sold out. I ended up paying double on like some Yahoo auction or something like that. Ridiculous, but I had to play it. We got a new internet connection. We were on a regular modem at that time, but because we needed a new modem, we had to upgrade to ISDN 128.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it was definitely worth it. It was.
Where do you guys learn about this stuff?
Completely new to me, but fascinating. And ever since then, I've been into MMOs. That was the gateway drug for me. Going in from FF11 and then trying some of the Western MMOs as well. Getting into World of Warcraft, seeing the differences between the two.
Personally, I think it's very different. I mean, here in Japan from the Western market because, yeah, it is for everyone in the globe. I mean, it's very first MMORPG on the console, PlayStation 2, and also, I mean, it was the first ever cross-platform MMO between PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360. The obvious one is the most Japanese people don't really like to chat in public.
Right.
So, I mean, in the world, there's a lot of characters, but it's very quiet because people are using a tell instead of the say or shout. But if you go to the Western world, game world, I mean, every single one is shouting around. So yeah, that's a huge difference.
While in the West.
The CEO was a huge advocate for the company's attempts to move towards NFT projects that, coupled with the multiple failed game projects in the last couple of years under his time as CEO, Babylon Falls, Forspoken, etc., probably led to him being asked by the company to step down. We never know for sure. All we know is that following the closure of the Forspoken development team and the dissolving of its staff back into SE proper, he would be stepping down. Right, okay. I mean, not every business decision can be a hit, I guess. Yeah. Respect him for stepping down, because there's certain CEOs and certain companies that aren't stepping down, even though literally nobody likes him, and they invite James Corden to do a fucking thing at a play. No, in the West, you have your EverQuest and you had your Ultima Onlines.
West, you have your EverQuests and you had your Ultima Onlines. In Japan, there was none of that. And then, so Final Fantasy XI was really one of the first.
Because they don't play
MMOs
PC in Japan.
Okay. And so getting to work with basically the pioneers of the Japanese MMO was really exciting. On the other hand, I mean, you could also say that it was possibly kind of a curse in the sense that they were all, doing their own thing. They had their vision of what an MMO should be and what a Japanese MMO should be. And then me, again, not having played an MMO before, getting on this team and thinking, okay, this is an MMO, and translating away and working in that project, I kind of, started thinking, okay, this is what an MMO is, this is what an MMO is. And then that one day I start playing WoW and it's like, oh, seeing the differences between the two and saying like, okay, what I thought was the norm in Final Fantasy XI.
But why does the text, why is the text covering the whole screen? Why is the UI set to 500%?
Then, the grinding for 20 hours to go up one level and then only to have your level drop when you, pull too many crabs and it kills you and you've lost 5 hours work.
Wait, is that really how it works? You lose XP?
That's not normal, is it? The Japanese base game, Final Fantasy XI, had already released, and they were working on the first expansion pack, Rise of the Zalart. I was part of the team that was working to get the base game and Rise of Zalart all translated before the Japanese Rise of Zalart was finished, so we could all release at the same time.
Right.
When was your guys' first MMO? My first MMO was World of Warcraft. So that's my entry experience into MMOs. I never played what's the most punishing game I've ever played? I'm trying to think of the 90s, what I used to play. WoW, then I left Ragnarok. I played WoW and RuneScape very, very close to one another. Ragnarok, I don't remember Ragnarok. RuneScape was your first MMO? Yeah, so RuneScape / WoW. I guess Toontown, Toontown counts. Toontown counts as an MMO. I played that, but I could never afford to pay the sub on it. So, but yeah. Classic.
Did you get it on time?
I got it on time. I haven't missed a deadline yet. That's one thing I'm proud of.
Final Fantasy XI was a huge success for Square Enix. It established a concurrent user base of around 250,000 players for years. It was the most profitable Final Fantasy game ever, and at one stage was the 6th most popular game on all of Xbox Live. More than that, it established the Japanese style of MMO, and when the decision was made in 2005 to start work on a sequel, the new MMO was built around things that made 11 successful.
That's interesting. I like that as an idea where they made an MMO and then they're making, instead of going oh, let's just add to this game forever, they realized that no, we need to make a new MMO and update everything. And I think that's really, really smart. And maybe there are other games out there which could probably do a similar thing. But yeah, because otherwise you're developing that one game for years and years and years, and you don't. It's you're restricted. You're very, very restricted. You're going down you're being pigeonholed into one path. So, going, oh, you know what? We'll call it FF11 there. We'll call it there. Good enough. Awesome. Let's make FF14. Yeah, things that made FF successful. What could it have been?
Focusing, like most Final Fantasy games do, on beautiful graphics and an interesting battle system. This new game was to be directed and produced by the same duo that shipped 11, series veteran Hiromichi Tanaka and Nobuaki Komodo. Final Fantasy XIV was announced for Windows and PlayStation 3 in 2009, but behind the scenes the development team was struggling to put the pieces of its new world together.
ファイナルファンタジー14のその最初のバージョンの、自分が見た時の一番大きな問題点、最終的にそれが問題だったと考えているものっていうのは、その最初のコンセプトとしてそのプランナーがスクリプトを書くことによってゲームを作っていこうで、利点としては、プランナーが考えて自分たちで実装するんで高速な開発ができる。要はそうじゃないと基本的にはプランナーさんものを考えて開発者にエンジニアに相談してどう実装するかを決めてで、ゲームデザインをする 人はそのどういうパラメータをいじりたいかとかを相談しながらエンジニアと話をしてものを作っていかなきゃいけないんですけれども、そこの部分に関してスクリプトを導入すると自分で考えて自分で実現することができるようになるっていう発想で、ゲーム実装の大半がスクリプトで組まれてたんですね。そのスクリプト UI の問題もそうなんですけれども、ゲームも UI も基本的にはスクリプトで書かれていて、でスクリプトを動かすエンジン側がかなり負荷が高いというか CPU をたくさん使わないと動かない状態になっているんで、ちょっとした何かをするだけでも、ゲーム内で少し何かをするだけでも非常に CPU リソースを使うことになっていて、すぐにサーバーが回るサイクルが遅くなっていくっていうことが問題として発生していました。で結果としてそのサーバーでできることはあとゲームとしてサーバーで実現できるところは少ないですし、何かしようとすると負荷が上がっちゃうんで、じゃあそれを回避するためにどうしようとかっていうことで、結果的にそのゲーム内容としてリッチなものが実現できなくなっている。
I mean, did they not know that was so? For anyone who didn't manage to read, so they're running these scripts which were then causing the game service to basically be, I don't know what, like overworked, stressed, whatever. Would they not have known that?
起きてましたね。で UI もスクリプトで組まれていたので、なんかちょっと処理するだけでもすごい時間がかかるっていうような問題が発生していました。
Like I mentioned before, again, localization being in a position where we get to see all the parts come together first. We were some of the first to realize that, Houston, we have a problem. That type of situation. I mean, you had the battle team. They're like, yes, we have this great battle system, with stamina and these things that you can do. And then you had the story team. Like, yes, we have this story. Oh, hey, we have these guild leads and all of these parts. And everyone was really, really proud of their parts. Look at this grass. It's so beautiful. Look at this barrel. It's the most beautiful barrel ever to be, represented in graphical form.
It's got as many polygons as a character.
Yes, and all of those parts, all of these teams, again, very, very proud of their work. I mean, the team was, put together with some of the best minds in Square Enix. You had people that were, leads that could probably even, lead their own projects, were all come together, and it became a lot of just tiny little groups making something that was really great. But once you put it together, it was kind of a mess. And no one really knew that, except for localization and probably QA as well. And we're like, okay, we need to do something. But by then it was one of those, it's kind of too late to do anything. But for us, we would be looking at the text, and some of it, it wouldn't make sense, or it would just be very bland, and thinking, if there's any way to make this game better, what can we do? It's like, well, I can take this text and maybe add some more stuff into it, add some more flavor to it, and maybe that will distract people from the fact that the battle is not that fun.
At a fundamental level, the piecemeal design...
I mean, it worked, because whenever you try and play this game, everyone's like, oh, Final Fantasy XIV has an amazing story. No one ever says it has an amazing raid or an amazing dungeon, so, I mean, it still worked.
The game was causing problems. Graphics were inconsistent. While many elements of the world were copy and pasted ad nauseum, some environmental objects had as many polygons and shaders as a character model. The battle system was just confusing. The game didn't have elements fundamental to most modern MMOs, things like jumping, auto-attack, and the ability to interact with the map using a mouse. It had a system that nerfed hardcore players to make sure they didn't level up too fast.
What?
The UI was confusing. Crafting was incredibly complex and took forever. And simply, there just wasn't enough content. The closed beta wasn't going well. They needed more time to fix these problems, so the open beta was pushed back to within a month before launch. The team knew there were problems, and they were getting frustrated.
で今まで話していた仕事っていうのは大体その2010年の1月から、実際にリリースされる 8月ぐらいまでの間にやっていたことで、ゲームが本当に良くないっていうのがみんなに認識されて自覚されていくっていうのは結局ベータが始まって製品版が始まってっていう8月9月10月ぐらいまでの期間に起きたことなんですね。で実際にはチーム内の意識としてもリリース前そのベータが始まる前から本当にこれをリリースしていいものかどうかっていう議論はある程度そのチーム全体でオフィシャルであったわけではないですけれども、開発者の中ではやはりその世に出していいクオリティかどうかっていうところは議論がありました。
when 1.0 was getting made, was the mentality that, oh, we're not like, that's like their thing, and we have our very own successful thing over here, we're gonna just make another one of those?
Right, and that's really what it felt like, is that we're gonna continue doing what we did because it succeeded before, why wouldn't it succeed again? And seeing that direction, them taking that direction, and knowing that, having worked on 11, that yes, they were very successful, seeing the success that they had with Final Fantasy XI, seeing these great creators, creating something that was, revolutionary. But then on the other hand, knowing that what they were doing was, yeah, but maybe that worked 6 or 7 years ago, but a lot of things have changed since then. And I think there was even one guy on the localization team that got to that point where he just got so frustrated that he just wrote this scathing mail and sent it out to the whole team before telling anyone else on localization he was going to write it. And then we all get it at the same time, the devs team. We're reading, it's like, wow, this is really terrible. I hope he doesn't, oh, he sent it to the whole team. Because he just got really frustrated, because he could, to him, they were being very stubborn. They weren't, they hadn't moved on. Whereas the rest of the world had moved on and adapted, with the release of WoW and what they had done. Whereas, the team here was like, no, we're going to stick with what we know, and that's good enough.
Then start feeling more concerning the situation. This is not fixed, not fixed, not fixed. You announced the launch date, but it's not fixed. So, but still, some major portion of people are.
So it's coming March. This is what I was going to ask. When did it actually release? It actually released March 2011. And looking at it, WoW had released in 2003, 2004. Yeah, looking at 1.0, it didn't even look anywhere close to what WoW was capable of. And I understand why, hearing those issues understands why they struggled, It's just in beta, it'll be fixed. 2010 was released on PC. Okay. 1.0 never made it to PS3. Wow. Okay, I guess we'll find out more about that. Cataclysm release was 4 months prior. See, imagine being in Cataclysm and then this is like what you're getting from FF. You'd be like, no way am I playing that. And you wouldn't even get it on console. At least if they'd release it on console, you'd at least be like, yeah, well, I can't play WoW because it's on PC. At least this is on console, so I can play it. And then maybe you would get the people that can't play WoW or something. Came at peak WoW. Cataclysm was when Cataclysm things had started to fall off for WoW. I think late Wrath was the beginning of sort of the end for WoW, really.
Still believing, no, it's better, still better. Better phase, last phase, but still better. So it could be, fixed or
still better.
Kind of went from thinking, okay, this project's going to be great, to, there might be some problems. Can we fix them? Can we fix them? Okay, we can't fix them. Is there anything we can do? I don't know. It was a very taxing experience.
The team crossed their fingers and hoped that the game's beta problems were simply that, the same issues that most MMOs have, ones that could be fixed with patches once the game entered live operations. And so Final Fantasy XIV Online launched on September 30th, 2010. It sold well its first week, and after a month had over 600,000 players swarming into its world. But it didn't take long for the cracks to appear. The problems in the beta were echoed by new players. The game was sluggish, the servers crashed, and Eorzeans quickly ran out of things to do. Quests were limited, and the fatigue system even made grinding for XP next to impossible. Critics ate it alive too.
Let's get right down to it. Unless you've got the patience of Job or some kind of masochist, you shouldn't play Final Fantasy XIV.
Do these things
its
still
problems
exist?
are so vast that I could spend hours talking about them. The awful interface, the recycled content, the stringent limits on questing, the useless maps, the stupid market ward, these issues and dozens more constantly have you asking that age-old question, what were they thinking?
So, what was it like seeing public reaction?
Yeah, it was very, very disheartening, because you'd want to look at those and you'd want to say, no, they don't understand, they don't know, what's going on here, or but deep down, you'd know they were right, and that was what kind of, that dagger in your heart and it's twisting because you want to defend what you worked on. I mean, the people that I worked with are the greatest people. I mean, I still work with a lot of them. I had worked with them before in FF11. I consider them not only co-workers but friends. But and then you see people online, bashing the work they did, and I know how hard they worked. I know how many hours they put in. I know that, like in the last 3 or 4 months, people were basically living at work, all putting their 100% into this game that was, destined to kind of crash and burn.
That's hard, man. I think it's so easy to be like critical of devs on games sometimes. Like, what are some games that have released even just this year that people have panned? Like, well, Cyberpunk, when that came out, people trashed that game. Starfield this year has got a lot of criticism, and it can depend, Black. Like, sometimes the devs ultimately are just like there's things like right now in I don't really know too much with like FF. Everything I've seen so far with FF devs has seemed pretty cool. But like, there are other games where the devs sometimes I'm just like, bro, you're out of touch. Like, they'll give you a reasoning for why they want something to work a certain way, and you're just like, okay, I respect that you've given me your input, and I respect that you've told us like why you've done what you've done, and that's great, that's fantastic, I really appreciate it. But that's just wrong. Like, it's just downright wrong. But yeah, that's hard, man, because you put your everything into that game, and then people are just like, yeah, this is shit, because they're not gonna think about you. Why would they think about you? They want the game to be good, and I get that because they're paying for a service. It's only fair. If you went to a restaurant and they served you a shit meal, you won't go, oh yeah, well maybe the chef is like sleeping at work. You just feel like that was a trash meal.
And then to have people online just say, oh, that sucks, this person is a piece of shit, or their work is terrible. It hurts, but it hurts more because if I was not here and was a user and had played that game, I probably would have said the same thing.
そうですね。当時はね、私CF をやってたんで見てたんですけれども、ローンチのタイミングやっぱ一番大きく違ったのは11の時のいろいろごたごたねと9の14の時のごたごた一番違うっていうのは。11の時はいろいろごたごたあったけど、ゲームに関して言うとさすがに相当程度受け入れファン相当のやっぱり評価されたんですよね。でオペレーション上のねトラブルとかっていろいろ多分あるっていうのは、これはある程度つきもので、大変だったんですけれども、それはあったんですけど、ゲーム内容に関して言うと非常に評価されたというふうに理解してますけれども、前作の場合の一番やっぱ私はちょっとまずいなこれって思ったのは、やっぱりゲーム自体の評価が非常に厳しいものだったということですね。これはちょっとやっぱり相当大丈夫かなというのを、ローンチした後ね、やっぱりそこはね非常にリアルに感じましたね。それはそうですね、ローンチして、しばらく経って、そんなに長い期間じゃなかったですね。そうしばらくなんでやっぱり相当なこのままで大丈夫なのかっていう。
I mean, the first few months was just an endless stream of translating apology mails from producers and directors and finding out, trying to figure out different ways of saying we're sorry, because the more you say it, the less weight it has. But Japan being a country where people apologize.
At least as people take in,
that's part of the culture. But then trying to translate that, it's like, okay, this is the 10th time I've said sorry in this one post, and then from the American myself, it's like, yeah, people are going to look at that as insincere. The more you apologize, the more insincere. And then trying to explain that to the team, it's like, no, we have to apologize. It's like, yes, you have to apologize, but and it just became, we weren't talking about the game anymore. We were talking about how to translate apologies, and it seemed like that lasted for a couple months.
Actually, we see a huge drop. I mean, right after the launch timing, we got some good number of the subscribers. Again, that fall. I mean, as you can imagine. So I mean, it was failure, and we announced a failure. So we see lots of decline.
さっきも話した通り、実際にはその開発内でも今リリースすべきかっていうか、リリースできるクオリティにあるかっていうのはベータ直前とかベータが始まってもそうなんですけど、常に疑問はあったので、リリースして実際にただそれまでにチーム内にあった空気はやはり出したら意外と
Yeah.
受け入れられる可能性があるんじゃないかっていう
How bad can it be, huh?
その漠然としたその出せばどうにかなるのかも、その自分たちが思っているほど悪くないのかもっていうその何の根拠もないと希望的なものがあったんですよね。で出た結果結局そんな魔法は起きなくて、やはりその自分たちが感じている通りにまだ世に出すのが早いというか、世に出せるクオリティに達していない商品を出してしまったっていう気持ちはみんなにあったんで、実際にその改善しなきゃっていうか根本的に対応しなきゃいけないっていうところはチーム内に割とすぐ広がったと思ってます。なので特にすごいそんなことはないっていう意見がすごく強くあって、誰かを説得しなきゃいけないみたいなことは特になかったですね。
I'm interested to see where Yoshi-P kind of comes in and where he came from, like why he was trusted with the job and stuff. I mean, obviously they're going to talk about it, but
today Square Enix is based across multiple floors in a modern office complex in Shinjuku, Tokyo. It's a company that is often designing multiple projects at once. And while Final Fantasy XIV was being developed, in another part of the building a different game was being made. Produced by a Final Fantasy fan, his name, Naoki Yoshida.
Wait, hold on, sorry, I want to listen
Final Fantasy XIV was being developed, in another part of the building a different game was being made. Produced by a Final Fantasy fan, his name, Naoki Yoshida.
一番最初はファミリーコンピューターUS だとエンターテインメントシステムかのマリオブラザーズが一番最初にプレイしたゲームです。とにかくその、
yeah, how's that for
テレビの
timing?
中、テレビっていうのはその見るものだと思っていた子供の時に。ところがそのマリオブラザーズで初めてそのコントローラーを握ってゲームをプレイした時に、まずそもそもテレビのものを自分が自由に動かせるっていうことがものすごいショックで、友達の家でプレイさせてもらったんだけど、ものすごい興奮したのを覚えてますね。ドラゴンクエストっていう日本で RPG を大きく広めたタイトルを初めて触った時に、アクションではないゲーム、数字のやり取りでこんなにまたさらにゲームは面白くなるんだっていうのを、特にストーリーラインがあってっていう、また次のカルチャーショックを受けて RPG っていうジャンルにものすごくなんだろうフォーカスしていくことになったかなとは思います。当然その翌年に出たファイナルファンタジーにもその映画的なその演出、ファンタジーをより強く打ち出したっていうところにもすごい衝撃を受けてたので、やっぱり僕の中でドラゴンクエストとファイナルファンタジーっていうのはすごい大きかったですね、当時。
Like most Japanese players at the time, Yoshida-san played all the early Final Fantasy games. He holds them in high regard, though he still holds the bitter memory of not being able to save before the last dungeon in Final Fantasy III. But when he was 11 years old, a brand new type of gaming experience arrived at home. His uncle gave him a PC. On this PC, the young gamer learned how to program BASIC. His first video game centered around trying to break into a bank vault. But this PC also exposed...
He needed the money. He needed to break in the bank so he had enough money to spend on voice acting for FF14. I get it.
...him to a spectrum of gaming that eluded most Japanese players. Western role-playing games. He fell in love with games like Diablo and was stunned when he first went online and played with other players.
でその翌年にウルティマオンラインをベータからプレイし、先輩にとにかくすげえゲームあるって言われてウルティマオンラインをベータから始めたのが初めて MMO をプレイした作品で、やっぱり同じようなその3回目の衝撃、3000人が同時に一つの世界で遊ぶっていうのがもうとてつもないまた衝撃でした。まあウルティマは
Look at this. I mean, there's something just special about that, isn't there? There's kids these days that'll never experience anything like this. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
本当に自由度のウルティマオンラインは特にとにかく初期は自由度がめちゃくちゃ高いゲームだったので、そのいわゆるロードの称号をつけたそのなんて言ったらいいんだろうな、すごく紳士的なというかコミュニティリーダー的プレイをするキャラクターと完全に悪のプレイヤーキラーをやるキャラクターを2つ作って、どっちもものすごい遊んでたし、やっぱりその MMORPG っていうゲームがどう作られているのか、どういったエンジニアリングが必要なのかっていうのも ものすごいそこで勉強させてもらったと思いますと同じぐらいの比重で PC でゲームをかなり遊ぶようになってたので自分で PC パーツ買ってきて組み立てたりしてたしでやっぱりそのあたりで FPS もかなりプレイし始めてたし特に 3DMMO のスタートであるエヴァクエストその後プレイをして当時エヴァクエストのパッケージを日本で手に入れるのが本当に大変で出張で東京に来た時に秋葉原をね時間を作ってゾンビのように店をこううろうろしてエヴァクエストってゲームないですかエヴァクエストってないですかって
That's cute. Yoshi-P's in the building, dude.
Yoshida-san would embark on a career in games that would eventually see him joining Square Enix to work on the Dragon Quest series. Though he wasn't working on the Final Fantasy team, he was part of the umbrella group that was allocating programmers to various projects. He didn't have granular visibility on FF14, but he knew the team was struggling. I asked from his perspective as a producer where he thought the game's problems were coming from.
わかんないこれ広報にカットされるのかもしれないけどクリスタルツールズって呼ばれるミドルウェアを全社で作ろうとしていたので腕のいいプログラマーが全部そのチームに各なんだろうゲームラインから招集されてそのメインプログラマーがみんないないっていう状態になってしまったのでどのプロジェクトもものすごい大変な時期だったまあオリジナルの14がああなったってしまった理由の一つでもあるかなとは思いますけど、ね、さらに2つ大きな問題がそこに絡まっていてスクエアエニックスその全体にプレイステーション2のジェネレーションで本当に世界一
Did FF10 really look this bad back in the day? When I remember playing FF, it was the most beautiful game I'd ever seen. Wow. Wow, I'm getting old, bro.
クオリティ、グラフィックスのクオリティが高い、そしてゲームエクスペリエンスがものすごく詰まったゲームっていうのをたくさんリリースしたので、本当にこう、なんていうんだろう、ある意味自信過剰にもうなっていた時期で、自分たちが世界一だし、自分たちのグラフィックスこそが世界一だし、その作り方はその自分たちにしかできない。だから、なんだろう、でも超巨大な成功体験ってやっぱり足かせというかにもなる例だと思うんですけど、ものすごくおごってた、まあ悪い言い方をすればおごってた時期だったと思いますね。例えると、その刀を作る刀匠のような職人たちが本当にたくさんいて、彼らが一つずつを手作りで作って世界一のクオリティを作り上げていたんだけど、実は世界は、まあ、特にその北米を中心にテクノロジーでそれをカバーするっていうところをずっと追求してきた時期で、プレイステーション3の世代になった瞬間にテクノロジーの方がそれを上回るっていう時期が来たせいで、作り方を変えようとはしないし、だけどテクノロジーも追いつけないっていうことから、さらにそれを知ってるはずのプログラマーたちはミドルウェアの制作に行ってるっていう状態で、でもグラフィックス作ってるそのアーティストたちは自分たちの作り方こそが世界一だと思ってるので、古い作り方で引き続きものすごく負荷のかかるやり方でアセットを作ってたので、もうそれらが絡まってっていうのが、まあもう一つの大きな、さっき2つあるって言った問題の一つ目がそれです。もう一つはプライドはいついかなる時でもとても大切なものだとは思うんですけど、そこにやっぱり超巨大な成功体験をしたっていうこと自体が乗っかってきちゃうと、その自分たちの作るゲームこそがベストであって他をあんまり見る必要がないっていう時期でもあったんじゃないかなと思っていて、例えば当時世界多分 MMORPG を知ってる人に世界最大の MMORPG は何ですかって言ったら、100人に聞いたら100人がワールド・オブ・ウォークラフトって言ったはずなのに、誰もプレイしてない開発チームが。
Yeah, because it's released in 2010. Why wouldn't you be looking at WoW in some capacity? And if WoW wasn't the biggest MMO, you know, like if it had been someone else, why wouldn't you look at that? Yeah, that's really interesting. So I gave that example of World of Warcraft not because I wanted to talk about whether or not.
これはワールド・オブ・ウォークラフトを知ってるか知ってないかっていう話だけの話をしてるんじゃなくて、その自分たちが世の中に対して新しいそのビデオゲームをリリースしようとするときにライバルになるタイトルは何だろうとか、
Yeah.
ユーザーは今プレイヤーはどこにそのゲームエクスペリエンスの最新の状態をプレイしてるんだろうっていうのを知らないっていうのがその感覚として僕には結構信じられない。なんでもっとみんなゲームプレイしないの？だって自分たちが今どの辺りにいるか分かんなくなっちゃうよっていうのがまあ言いたい。で特に14の場合に関してはもちろんファイナルファンタジー11の超巨大な成功体験っていうのが邪魔をしたっていうのもあるとは思うんだけど、あの当時はエヴァークエストを徹底的にプレイをしてだからこそ11を作ったはずなのに、新しいレストランをオープンするときに隣にあるレストランがどんなメニューを出していて、
Yeah, like
どんなサ
you
ービ
look
スを
at what the competitors are making, what their prices are, where they get their produce from, what kind of food they make, who's busy, who's not, when are they busy, when are they not, what kind of customers are they attracting, what kind of customers do you want to attract, like, yeah, that's interesting. But I get that, like, coming from a case of, oh no, we know what we're doing, we don't need to look at other people. That sort of like arrogance of self-belief. But yeah, cool that Yoshi-P came in with that perspective.
してるかを知らずにレストラン作る開発させる人はいないんじゃないって。
So just at the launch stage then of 1.0, what was the feeling within Square Enix? The beta was quite close to launch. Were people anticipating that there would be negative feedback, or were they less aware that that was going to happen, I guess?
僕は他のチームにいてすごくベータの評判が悪いっていうのはネットでニュースは見てましたね。ただ多かれ少なかれ MMORPG のローンチは絶対にまあ荒れやすい、サーバーがすぐ落ちるとか、まあ、ストレステストをやってるけどプレイヤーの方は遊びたいからやっぱりサーバーが落ちるとやっぱりすごく文句を言って当然だと思いますし、だから僕もやっぱり11を作ったチームだから、まあそうは言っても11のやっぱり完成度が高いのでそこと比較をしてあの機能がないこの機能がないっていう話をしてるのかなっていうふうに思ってた。僕は僕自身の開発が忙しかったのもあって、ただそれも少しずつ収まっていくんだろうなっていうふうに僕は当時は見てた。ただ別の角度、今度はそのオリジナルの14チームの中のその視点としてはこのままだと本当にまずいもっと時間をかけて品質を上げないとっていうもちろん声を上げる人たちもいたけれど、会社ってまあ全体の判断としてはファイナルファンタジー11のスタートもそうだったと。機能たくさんなかったしものすごくネガティブなフィードバックもたくさん来たけどパッチでどんどん直していって11は完成したんだから14も大丈夫だと、最初は絶対こうなんだっていう風に判断したのでベータを終わらせてリリースへ踏み切ったっていうのが当時のジャッジだったって僕はチームに入ってからインタビューをしてそれを確認したので、チームの中ではやっぱり議論はあったそうです。あのままじゃダメ、まずいっていう話は。ただ最終的なジャッジは今お話しした通り11の時もそうだった。でも11だってずっとパッチを続けてああなったじゃないかと。
Yeah, like how that released in 2000. If you had told me that released in 98, I would have gone, wow, that's impressive. You tell me it releases 12 years later, I'm like, no way. The classic streamer thing. No shot. No way, bro.
Eventually, corporate realized that this wasn't usual.
Oh, that was 11. Oh, okay. That was 11. Okay, that's fine. Sorry, I thought that was 1.0 that they were just showing. Okay. If that was 11, that's fine. If that was 1.0... Okay, 2002, yeah, that's... But yeah, I guess that's fine for TL2. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Sorry, I that was me getting wrong, getting mistaken there. I'll be honest, I can't really tell the difference between 11 and 1.0. I'll be real, but all right.
Problems, so they called on a few select members of the team to create a task force. This task force would research what changes the game needed and the resources the development environment would require to do the work. Members of that team would talk to Yoshida-san about their worries after hours. His thoughts were that the current organizational structure would need to be modified if the team was going to make the changes required. In October of 2010, Yoshida-san talked to the then Square Enix president Yoichi Wada and suggested they initiate a company-wide emergency to get the team the resources they needed. Wada-san spent a few days talking to the 14 development team about their concerns, and while a lot of the team had suggested that the current task force was in fact up to the task, some members of the 14 team had pleaded to have Yoshida-san join the project to help. And so it transpired that in late November, corporate took the decision to remove Hiromichi Tanaka from the team and move Nobuaki Komodo from director to lead designer. Both of their vacant positions would be filled by Yoshida-san.
He took two guys' jobs!
At that time, he was leading a team that was working on an original IP for Square Enix. He was disappointed to leave that team, but excited for the opportunity to work on one of the company's crown jewels.
Can I just say, that's... Not only did he take two guys' jobs and say, I'll do the work of both of them, but the fact that to take a product that is a sinking ship and say, I'll take command of this, that could have been a career ender. Like, if that didn't work... Oh, just one guy got demoted. Yeah, fair enough. But that's bold, man. Not a lot of people look at a burning building and go, yeah, I'm going to go into that. So, hey, power to him. But yeah, so work on one of the company's crown jewels, a numbered Final Fantasy game.
A numbered Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
So, he got right to work.
やらなきゃいけないことが当時3つあると思ってて、まあ順番にやってったんです。まずそのチームに、まあオリジナルのチームにトップが変わります。で、あとそのタスクフォースメンバーもそのまま開発コアとしてリードに入りますっていう当然話をしなきゃいけない全チームに。ただ僕はドラゴンクエスト側のゲームを開発することが多かったので、そのほとんどのスタッフを知らないというか、まあ顔と名前ぐらいは知ってるスタッフはいたけど、その一緒に仕事したことがある人がほとんどいなかったので、まず Say Hello っていうところからで、一度もみんな仕事したことがないからどんな仕事をする人間なのかを見てくれればいいよってまずで、あ、こいつダメだと思ったらチームを抜けて構わないからっていう話を最初にして一緒に仕事してみようでも1回はいいよねって。それでダメだと思ったら本当すぐ抜けて構わないから3ヶ月ぐらいまず一緒にやろうよっていう話を僕スピーチでした記憶があります。でまあもう一回チャレンジするよ。まあ当然その時その申請するなんて話はまだ計画がなかったので、とにかく立て直しをやるよと、ギブアップはしないよっていう話をした時に、僕を知ってる何人かはよしやるぞっていう人たちと、もういい、もう無理だよっていう人たちと、なんだよこの急な体制変更って言ってまあ怒ってる。
You know what's happening right now? This exact same thing is happening at Blizzard with Chris Metzen. That's what I love, baby. This exact same thing is happening right now with Chris Metzen. Okay.
人たちとっていうのが大体のその時の雰囲気でしたね。まあそんな中で今も14のサウンドディレクターやってるソケンが、まあその話をしてる時と大きなホールだったんですけど、2階のサウンドブースで僕のマイクの調整とかやってくれてて、そのソケンがあいつだけですよやり直すぞっていうか、そのリベンジするぞって言ったらガッツポーズしてたのはあいつだけです。今でも覚えてますよ。2階席でおっしゃーってやってたんであいつ。
I saw both reactions. I saw the, oh my God, we just went through a year of hell and now he's asking us to go through a year and a half of hell to this point that might, be another failure because, no one had taken a game and rebuilt it in this manner before. So basically saying like, yeah, you just have to trust me and yeah, you could, waste another year and a half of your life and it could be a failure and, but you're going to have to believe me on this one. And so, yeah, a lot of people are like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know. And I can understand that because, again, it was a gamble. Fair. But then on the other hand, there were, I mean, a lot of us, you know, myself included, but I mean, a lot of people on the team that were like, no, I mean, we worked so hard on this and we did our jobs the best that we could, but for a lot of, you know, reasons, some circumstances that were out of our control, you know, decisions made by higher ups, decisions made by other teams that have, you know, affected our work, and nothing that we could do about it. But we had put our all into it, and we were invested in the project. We still believed in the project. To have someone from the outside come in, and not just come in to say, okay, you know, forget it, we're just going to do it my way or the highway. He's like, you know, he asked our opinions. He laid out a roadmap. He gave us a vision and a hope. And
that's incredible.
Even though it seemed like it would be difficult to achieve, it didn't seem inconceivable.
Yoshi-P knew there was no time to wait. He worked with corporate to make sure the team had time off, both for them to relax, but also to give him time to build his new vision, to do research playing other MMOs, and to help draft his plan.
So he literally said, he told the whole office to go home and play World of Warcraft. Alright everybody, take 2 weeks, go play WoW, come back and then make a good video game. Yep, alright, hands in, let's go. Go team on 3. Man, that's the kind of homework I want, you know? Hey, go play some FF14, you know, for a little paid holiday, you know? Yeah. That's awesome. Also click on my link. The Yoshi-P link. If you do that, I'll get my mount. Yeah, that's great.
Deliver the vision and how the team was going to do it. They had very little time to fix this game, so once they started, the specifications document would have to be watertight. And as captain of the ship, he needed to be able to answer every question the team may have, quickly.
Yoshida-san was now at the helm of his first Final Fantasy, and as an avid MMO fan, he was looking forward to getting in there and fixing it. What he couldn't have known at this stage was the scale of the job ahead of him, that no matter how much they patched Final Fantasy XIV Online, they couldn't ever fix it.
Yeah, this is what I'm curious about, like, his initial thing was, did he initially go in like, oh, okay, we're just going to do a couple patches and we're going to fix it? Or did he go in like, okay, we are going to completely nuke everything? Because I doubt that would have been his immediate first thought, right? So that's interesting.
What they'd have to do was something that no developer had ever done, to rebuild an entire MMO while the original version was still running.
I don't think that...
Yeah, he said there was no ARR plan at first. Oh, I see what you... Yeah, okay, I read that, but I didn't mean that that's what he meant by it. Like, yeah. Their first thought was... Yeah, okay.
They realized immediately that it was something that couldn't be solved via patches. I think they still believe that, you know, if we patch it, it'll be fine. And it wasn't until they reevaluated and then brought in, you know, the new blood. Yoshida-san came in and told them, okay, yeah, this is not something that can be patched. If we want to fix this, we're going to have to take a drastic step.
Yoshida spent 7 weeks researching and returned with 2 options for corporate. It was then he realized that it would be impossible to convert the current game into an MMO that could last the test of time. Ultimately, though, this was a decision that corporate had to make. So he returned with not 1, but 2 plans. Plan A and Plan B. During this meeting, he explained that Plan A would be to patch the game and make it more playable, but that ultimately the game would never really satisfy players, and though Square Enix may make their money back, the damage to the online brand would be catastrophic. And then there was Plan B.
今のファイナルファンタジー4、当時のオリジナルのファイナルファンタジー14をパッチを当てて、そのできる限りポジティブに遊べるものにしながら、裏で全く新しいそのファイナルファンタジー14をもう一度作り直すっていうのがプラン B で、まあその話だけを聞くと、まあそんなバカなってなるので、当然どうやってそれを達成するか、チームを2つに分けて、でどういったそのマネジメントスタイルでそれをやるのかで、大体発売時期はプレイステーション3版をリリースするっていうのがプレイヤーとの約束だったので、プレイステーション3の寿命が来る前にリリースしなきゃいけないので、2012年年末から2013年中には絶対リリース できるこの計画であればっていうプレゼンテーションをして、リスクは高い、ただ当然そんなことをしたことはないし、ゲーム業界でしかも同じタイトルで作り直してるから、うまくいったとしても成功するかどうかは分からない。ただ少なくともやっぱり「ファイナルファンタジー」ってクレイジーだねとかすごいことするねとか少なくとも自分たちがミスしたことを認めて信頼を取り戻そうとしたっていう努力は見てくれてる人は多分見てくれるだろう。だからどっちをチョイスするかは会社に任せる。ただどっちであっても全力でやるよっていう話をプレゼンテーションして、まあ、結果的にはね、
I'm glad that Square Enix took pride.
今こうなってますけど。
I'm glad that they took pride in themselves and didn't just go like, nah, let's just make a quick buck and then dip out. Like they actually understood.
Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 was in a state of disarray. Square Enix had decided to suspend subscriptions to help ease the negativity around the game, while the PS3 version was indefinitely postponed. For the next 2 years, Yoshida-san and his team would work tirelessly on not one, but 2 MMOs, patching the original 1.0 to fans' expectations, while secretly working on a brand new version of Final Fantasy XIV. In our next episode, we focus on that 2-year period and tell the incredible story of the falling moon of Dalamud, the death of 1.0, and the birth of a new Eorzea.
Oh, okay, that's part of the video. Okay. He played the card of Pride back. I think because they were an Eastern developer, because they're a Japanese developer where Pride is a big thing, you know, like honor, pride, and stuff like that is a big aspect over there. So if it wasn't for that, like if that had happened in the West, like they'd have just gone like, nah, man, let's take our investment and we'll just go we'll go invest in a different brand. Like who cares? That was really interesting. Like I respect Square Enix for taking the hit. I'm also wondering where the hell they get all this money from, and then also I respect Yoshi-P for taking on the burden of a burning ship, because I think many people out there would have just been like, no, bro, I'm not taking that hit. Spent 7 weeks doing the research, doing the prep. The fact that the developers stuck by it as well, like Koji and Soken and stuff like that, that's cool, man. But I'm also curious, what the hell game would have Yoshi-P made if it wasn't for this, you know? Like, what other... We could have had something else that was really great. What did we lose in order to get this? Noclip Part 2, baby. Yes, we have, Cleon.
So what did you think from your perspective as CFO to fix this problem? It's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to involve creating a new game. It's going to involve keeping the other game still running. Did you think at that time that that was a solid investment, that that's what Square Enix should be doing, or did you think that it was a risky venture?
単純にそこだけ見るとね、すごくリスクの高い話に多分一般的には多分なるというふうに思うんですけれども、さすがに当社はね、ナンバリングタイトルでフラッグシップのタイトルで MMO これだけの
They keep saying a numbered Final Fantasy a numbered Final Fantasy product. What do they mean by that? Are there Final Fantasies that are non-numbered? Like I've never seen a non-numbered Final Fantasy. There are non-numbered ones. FF10, that's a number. FF2, that's a number. 10-2, that's also a number. Guys, these are all numbers. Crystal Chronicles Tactics, Dissidia. Okay, got it. I've never heard of a non-numbered Final Fantasy. Okay. Final Fantasy O negative, yeah.
なわけですから、それがこのままサービスが頓挫してしまうというのは、これは非常に将来的にまずいと。これはやっぱり経営上これは非常に大きなダメージを与えるということで、再度作り直しと並行してやるということの投資に関しては、これははっきり言ってやっぱりやるべきっていうか、やらざるを得ないという。
So something like they had no choice, really.
ものすごい財務的なリスクがものすごい大きかったですけどね。
intro, aren't they?
Hello
Okay.
and welcome back to our series on the fall and rise of Final Fantasy XIV Online. We rejoin Yoshida-san and the team at Square Enix at the start of a long adventure, and with players leaving en masse and the clock ticking, it was time for them to formulate a plan. But how exactly do you rebuild an MMO while people are still playing it?
Yoshida-san set his eyes on a 2013 launch date for the new version of 14, as he wanted to have the game out for fans within the PlayStation 3's lifecycle. But to do this while still patching 1.0, he would have to create an entirely new MMO in less than half the time of most conservative estimates. So before we get into specifics of what exactly was changed, I wanted to know how he did it. So for a moment, we step away from game design and dive into a critically important aspect of video games development that we rarely talk about: project management.
Designing an MMO I just imagine the timeline for something like this is at least 5 years for anything. And you're being asked to do it in less than half of that probably. When you're designing games, when we talk to people, so much of it is iterative, that you create something and then you refine it and you brush it and then you look at it again. But you didn't have that luxury. You had to make sure that the version of A Realm Reborn that was coming out at that date was the final package. So did that change the way that you had to set up the team and the way your workflow kind of went?
MMORPG の開発に5年が普通だっていうのはもうちょっと強く言ってください。
He's like, yeah, don't take 5 years, buddy.
まずそのスケジュールトラブルを起こさないためのそのマネジメントの工夫としては、なんだろうな、言い方がちょっと難しいんですけど、ものすごく腕のいい、特に100人に1人ぐらいしかいないようなプログラマーがたくさんやっぱりいるわけではないので、かつものすごい短い期間で大量のコンテンツやアセットを作らなければいけないので、人がたくさんどうしても並行作業が多くなるとかかってしまう。能力のこの差をある意味高いレベルに合わせるんじゃなくて、低いレベルに合わせるというか、
Oh, I see. So instead of trying to like employ the work of like the most talented programmer, just like try and keep it at a consistent level so that everyone can just be effective and consistent. Right.
難しいな。
Right.
平均的なところに合わせるっていうそのマネージメントをすることでリスクをなくすってことをしました。この後ちょっともうちょっと詳しく話します。で、何をしたかというと、とにかく一つのタスク、例えばドラグーンというそのジョブを作るっていう時に、今言ったドラグーンっていうジョブを作るっていうタイトルって1タスクに見えるけど、そうじゃない実際には。何個のドラグーンにはアクションが必要で、そのアクション一つプログラミングするのに、どれだけかかるか。もちろんそのドラグーンの特定のアクションを作るために仕様書も必要だし、仕様書を作った後は実際にその仕様書に例えば2時間かかるなら、それを例えば僕に確認依頼が飛んで僕がチェックするのに例えば15分かかる。そのぐらい一つのタスクに見えるものを徹底的にもう細かく分解させるっていう、ちょっと究極のそのミニマムな管理方法を引いたので、スタッフは結構ストレスだっただろうなとは思います。で、そのさらにシングルタスクに対して最もこのタスクが自分で早く終わると予測される時間、この時間でこのタスクが完了したら自分を褒めてもいい。逆にこのタスクがこの時間以上かかってしまったら給料をもらう資格がないっていうぐらいその最悪のケースっていう、そのミニマムで終わる時間とマックスかかってもこれだけだろうっていう時間を両方申告させて、その平均値で基本的にはスケジュールを管理するっていう、本当にミニマムマイクロマネージメント、マイクロすぎるぐらいのマイクロマネージメントをしてました。それをウィーク、最初はウィークでみんなそのやり方に慣れてもらうために毎週1週間でその マネジメントを回してで1週間経つと結果が出るのでさらにそこに個人パラメータ例えば吉田はやたらとミニマムをこう短い時間で申告するけど結局タスクが終わってみるとマックスに寄りがちだなってなった場合は 50% で見積もるんじゃなくてもうその係数をかけて吉田はマックス側に寄るからきっと次の週のスプリントはもうちょっとマックス側に寄るだろうみたいなのをどんどんこうで個人特性までそうやって管理してたので1日の稼働時間
That's really good. So, because he came from the other, what was his job title when he came from the previous team, the Dragon Quest team? I'm trying to assess how much he was learning on the go compared to how comfortable, because this is something, like you said, that's never been done before of redesigning the game. So he was the director before, okay. This is the basis of Scrum project management, right. I think I've heard that before, like Scrum project, I think I've heard that. I don't know 100% what it is, but it's not his particular, he's famous for his management style, but he didn't invent this style of management, right? Or did he? Scrum this? Oh my goodness. Okay. He did not. Okay, so he didn't invent it, but he just incorporated it well. It's a very famous method. Okay. Right. So you're so to make sure I've understood this correctly, because I don't know anything about like game development, code and stuff like that. So he was figuring out how long it would take his staff on average to do each task that he'd set out, like using the Dragoon example. So say implementing actions and job actions and stuff. So like he was taking the minimum and maximum time for those things, getting an average, and then addressing like, right, this should take us X amount of time based on how long it's taking people to do this. But he would have certain people in the team that would take the maximum amount of time, some people do the minimum. Okay. He was okay, so he was basically splitting his Zerglings, yeah? He was individually splitting his Zerglings, yeah? Got it. Yeah. Yeah, Scrum has been there forever. It's not a game dev exclusive model. Okay. Yeah. And also for the number of work hours per day, I mean, typically we would think 8 hours. Oh, it's going to be more than that.
8時間ではありますけど、まあ、トイレに行ったりっていう時間も必要だし、あと必ずミーティングやその会議室でのミーティングじゃなかったとしても、スタッフと仕様の打ち合わせを絶対にそのデスクトゥデスクでフェイストゥフェイスでやることもあると思うので、1日の稼働は6時間で計算してましたね、その時は。全員6時間、8時間では見ない。で大体慣れてきたらそれをまあ2週間スプリントに変えて、あとは毎朝必ずスタンドアップミーティングをして、それぞれのセクションで自分のタスクが今どうなってるのか、誰かのタスクが遅れてるせいで自分のタスクに取り掛かれないとかいうのは毎朝スタンドアップミーティングをして、ではこのタスクを入れ替えてこっちを先にやってくれないとこの人が止まってしまうからっていうのをもう全部毎朝やってましたね。だからスクラムっていうそのマネジメント手法のちょっと変形型ですね。ただ最後に言っときますけど、このマイクロマネジメント普通じゃないのでおすすめしないですよ。まあ、2年弱で MMORPG を作る、逆に言うとスタッフにも2年かからず終わるから、このマネジメントだから今は我慢してって言ってやってもらったものなので、一般的には絶対おすすめしないです。細かすぎます。
I mean, anyone can come in and say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna rebuild the game. Follow me." But he came in with, this huge Excel that had all of these lists of everything on it. What we're gonna do here, what we're gonna do here. This is when we're gonna do them by, and this is what we're gonna do here. And to see that, it's like, okay,
it's amazing.
This isn't just a stopgap type of thing where a president's like, okay, crazy here. Let's just change the leader, and hopefully things will, get better. It was an actual, okay, this guy really wants to do this. He has this plan.
Yoshida had them running like a well-oiled machine, so it was time to get to work. First things first, they had to start the rollout of patches for 1.0.
Yeah, you guys are saying, like, imagine if your boss scheduled you to a tea every day for 2 years. Very stressful. I mean, bro, I can't even make it on stream by 10 a.m. every day. Sometimes it's 10:05, 10:15. I mean... Sane management, we can pretty much map out every single patch and expansion date like 2 years in advance. Yeah, that's insane. That's crazy. Maybe Metzen isn't doing this at I don't know. Yeah, it's not 10:30. Right, so they still have to do patches for 1.0 as well. Okay.
But a critical part of the failure of the first game was the poor communications the development team had with their community. So to keep diehard fans on board during this protracted period of redevelopment, they had to be a lot...
Where are they even getting this gameplay footage from, by the way? Because, like, the last thing I would have remembered is, like, Fraps. So this... Who recorded... Oh, no, because it was 2000... This is 2010. Wait, never mind. Bro, I'm thinking this game... Guys, this game doesn't look very good. I'm thinking this is 2000, bro. Okay, yeah. Alright. This protracted period of rhythm, and they had be a lot more transparent. Okay.
More transparent.
What we explained to players at very first is it was failure. Failure. So we need to restart the game. But at that timing we didn't announce the Reborn is not announced, but we are going to fix this game. We need more communication. So just list all the changes, plan changes.
Yeah, let them know what you're gonna do.
So some, upper management people doesn't like this because if you show this to the players, player knows what we will do. So,
if you don't do
after that, you did this, but you didn't do this, you didn't this. Everyone can check that. So. Some people doesn't really like that way, but when Yoshida-san and myself are discussing how we deal with the community, but what we need to do is to establish the trust.
確かに、今の14のそのユーザーベースから見れば当時のユーザーベースはものすごい小さかったと思う、今と比較すれば。ただメディアの皆さんからもそのプレイヤーからもそのファイナルファンタジー14はもうダメだ、むしろなんであんなダメなゲーム遊んでるの君たちどうかしてるんじゃないのって言われながらも、いやファイナルファンタジーシリーズだから絶対何とかしてくれるはずだ、いやこれはこれで僕らは楽しんでるからほっといてくれ。その11だって最初の頃はいろいろあったけどきっと良くなるはずって言って数はもちろん今と比較したらすごく小さいそのコミュニティだったかもしれないけど、誰よりもスクエアエニックスやファイナルファンタジーのことを応援してくれている人たちだったので、この人たちを無視するんだと多分この先もうファイナルファンタジーはダメだろうと思ってたので、むしろ何よりも大切にしなきゃいけない部分だったっていうのが最も大きい理由。それは何億円使おうが回収できない後でコストだと思うので、信頼ってそういうことなのかなっていうふうに会社にもプレゼンテーションしましたし、僕もそう思ってたから続けましたけど。あともう一つやっぱり大きなポイントは、本当にファイナルファンタジー14がリバンプしてその大逆転するためには絶対に彼らの力が必要だっていうことももう一つ重要な意味を持っていると考えてました。
Next, Yoshida split his team in half, some working on the new version of 14 and others working on the updates to 1.0, what he called the guts version of the game. But with so much of the game requiring fixing, where do you even start?
Yeah, where do you even start, bro?
まず一番最初にやらなきゃいけないと思ったのは、インターフェースをとにかくなんて言うんだろうな、最低限遊べるように正直本当申し訳ない話なんですけど、僕最初にやっぱりオリジナルの14触った時にインターフェースがあまりにもひどすぎて話にならない。だって PC バージョンしか出てないのにゲームパッドがないとまともに遊べない。聞いたことがない、そんな PC ゲーム。マウスキーボードでまともに遊べないゲームなんか見たことがなかったので、いくらそのコンテンツを作ろうがジョブを作ろうが、インターフェースがダメだったらコンテンツの面白さに到達する前に人はゲームをやめてしまうので、とにかくインターフェースを直さないとゲームにならないっていうふうに考えたので、一番最初にすごい丁寧に取り掛かった。
I still struggle with the interface these days, like doing the glamour system and stuff like that. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like just trying to figure everything out. So even now, like, it definitely looks a lot better. But yeah, the interface. What I'm trying to do by that is not slate the current FF. What I'm trying to say is like interfacing is very important. Being able to understand how to do things is very important. Yeah, like it's a lot better for sure. Yeah, I don't think you understand how bad the 1.0 interface was. The 1.0 was actually unplayable UI. Yeah, I mean it's obviously terrible, but yeah, what I'm trying to say is like just how important a good UI is, like how important it is for that to be a thing. Yeah. Yeah, to think now as well that you can adjust the hood and everything. I mean, that was on release, wasn't it, of 2.0? So it was done overwhelmingly server side, so it had actual lag opening and closing windows. Ooh.
のはやっぱりインターフェースの改修っていうところですね。僕最初にプレイした時5分ぐらいでやめちゃいましたもん。でもね、笑い話でクイットの仕方が分からなくて、ウィンドウ右上にある×ボタンを押そうとしたんですよ。で押したらこのままゲームを終了するとデータがセーブされない可能性があります。それでもよろしいですかってダイアログが出るのね。いやいやよくないでしょって。いや僕はエンジニアだからサーバーに常に書き込んでるからそんなわけないじゃんって思ってるんですけど、万が一のことがあるから多分出てるんですよそのダイアログ。でも意味がわからない。でそうなるともう怖くて押せないですよね。なんだこれでノーって押すとまたゲームにいるわけでしょ。 X 押すとダイアログでしょ。どうやってクイットするんだよこのゲーム。
Interface isn't sexy. It's not something you tend to hear a lot about in video games coverage, because really, when it's done correctly, you're not supposed to notice it. So when the early patches for the game concentrated on interface and quality of life updates, much of the community began to get frustrated. The team needed to fix it quickly, so Yoshida employed the help of a Square veteran, one of the developers, on that original 1.0 task force.
はい、皆川博と申します。ファイナルファンタジー14ではユーザーインターフェースの、設計デザインとあとアート的なビジュアルの方も担当しています。よろしくお願いします。今47歳なんですけれども、25の時に入社したのでもう22年経ちますね。当時はまだスクエアエニックスがスクエアという会社だったので、ファイナルファンタジータクティクスの、アートディレクターなので普段は少ない情報、なるべく少ない情報やシンプルな表示を心がけているんですけれども、今回はカスタマイズ性というかよりツール的な考え方でいろんなプレイヤーがそれぞれ自分の好きなカスタマイズができるようにっていうことを普段よりも強く意識してます。まあやはりバトルがテンポのスピーディーなテンポのゲームなので、カーソルフォーカスを十字キーで動かしながら決定するっていう、そういう操作性ではちょっとゲームにならないだろうというところがあったので、かなり最初の頃にクロスホットバーというアクションを選択するインターフェースを考えたんですけれども、ただこのインターフェース自体は割と昔から他のゲームで自分自身作ったり使ったりしていたものだったので、絶対それでいけるだろうなという思いはありました。なので実はそこはあまり苦労していなかったりします。例えば表現方法が変わると。
So how does it work? So it's like he's got, let me just hide. So he's got like his abilities, and then you slide across. So you can do like L or R1 or whatever, and it will like jump to a different thing, and then you can press the button. He created the cross hotbar system. Oh, this is the old one. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, this is base 1.0, but I didn't know if this was because they said that he wanted to fix it in the patches, right? So I didn't know if there was a patch that fixed it. You'd have to look at the current gamer using controller. This is old stuff. Okay. I don't know what cross hotbar controls are, but everyone seems super stoked about it.
実はそこはあまり苦労していなかったりします。
So you'd already done this, so you didn't think it was too much of a challenge because you'd done it on other games.
例えば表現方法が変わると必ず僕はこっちの方が良かったっていう話は来るんですね。例えばインベントリーは以前はテキストで表示されていたんですけれども、アイコンになると当然なんか似ていてよくわからないとか、 なので両方欲しいっていう話は受けて、両方作るのは大変なんだよなっていうそういうところがありました。今でも ARR のリリースからその積み残しの仕事リストみたいなのがあるんですけれども、2年以上経って今入るみたいな機能もたまにあったりします。
でもう一つはバトルシステムをとにかく変更しないとコンテンツが作れない。つまりあまり良くないバトルシステムをベースにして、コンテンツを作ったとしてもコンテンツが面白くならない。だから順番としてはインターフェースを修正しながらバトルシステムを変更してやっとその先にコンテンツを作るっていうのが、順番としては僕は
Yeah,
まっとう
so
だと
good
思う。
interface, good battle
当時
system,
の
now
バトル
make
システム
content.
も当時は15人でパーティーが組めてあって、でしかもマジックポイント MP の管理っていうものがほぼなかったので、当時のファイナルファンタジー14の中で最強の回復魔法だったケアルガーっていうスペルをずっと連打してても MP がゼロにならない。延々ケアルガーして OK で、他の魔法いらないよね。じゃあとにかく当時は15人で一つのモンスターを殴りまくって回復しまくってっていうすごい大雑把なゲームだったので、これを戦略的なバトルシステム計算式に変えていかないとコンテンツが面白くならない。
Yeah.
だから
Wow, it
UI を
didn't
直しな
have
がら
that as
バ
a
トルシ
default?
ステムを変更して、
What?
でそれらの準備をしながら最も重要だと思ってたのはファイナルファンタジーエレメントっていうものをとにかく入れていくことっていうのが次のというか最も大きな課題だっていうふうに思ってました。なぜなら当時ジョブもなかった、ナイトもいない、ブラックメイジもいない、ホワイトメイジもいない。これはファイナルファンタジーなのか。チョコボに乗れるわけでもないし、イフリートは出てきてるけど戦えないし、一体
He
何なん
couldn't
だこのゲ
fight
ーム。
Ifrit. Wow.
だから僕らがコンテンツとして入れていかなきゃいけなかったのはやっぱりイフリートやそのガルーダ、いわゆる召喚獣って一般的に呼ばれてるものとのボスバトルを入れていかなきゃいけないと思ったし、チョコボに乗れないなんて MMO なのに話にならないからチョコボにちゃんと乗れるようにしなきゃ
So
いけ
was
ない
this
し、
patch content or
何
was
よりジョ
this?
ブがないのも FF じゃない。少なくとも僕は FF だと思わないので、だったらジョブをちゃんと入れていこうっていうところが。
What was this
でもそれ
game
もやっ
if
ぱ
it
り
didn't have rideable chocobos? It didn't have the summons. It didn't have it didn't have like I don't know. Didn't have any of this stuff. What was this game? What were you doing? Like, well, doesn't even sound like it was a Final Fantasy to me.
さっき言ったようにインターフェースとバトルシステムが直ってなければいいものにはならないので。
It's a mess. Yeah, you didn't even have the Final Fantasy jobs, bro. I played Warcraft 3 custom games that had the jobs in because it was the Final Fantasy like custom game, and even they had the jobs in. I don't even have the jobs in. And that was in like 2003, 2002. And create the difference
やりな
between
がらきちん
specifications
と仕様
for.
を作ってそれを一つずつクリアしていくっていうのを中盤以降は続けて、そこからやっぱりグッドゲームの評判はやっぱり Q14 も良くなっている。
Just want to say this is a good game. I've seen some people say that 1.0 is better than what we have right now. Yeah, that's because those people were trapped in a part of their life where maybe they were happy and life hasn't gone the way that they were hoping, and they're trying to clutch onto something in the past that will make them feel like, you know, life was better then. And it's probably just that. There's no way in hell that 1.0 is better than what we have now. Not even a conversation.
でプレイヤーもずっと増え続けていったので少しずつですけど、あれは僕らもすごい励まされましたね。やっぱりちゃんと面白いものを作っていけばみんなプレイをしてくれるっていうのも数字の上からもよく見えたので、当時の7つ一気にリリースされた7つのジョブ、
7 jobs.
パッチナンバー忘れちゃったけど7つのジョブがいっぺんに実装されたんですけど、たった一人のゲームデザイナーが作ったんで。
One game designer for 7 jobs. There's no way it was balanced. There's no way. Wait, somebody say there are people that still play FF11, so it's understandable that they thought some things from 1.0 were better. Yeah, some people like bean pizzas, exactly. Classic WoW had one class designer. Did it? I don't think it did. I thought it had more. I thought it had, like, at least 3. I thought there was a couple. Okay. Yeah, one designer, a bunch of programmers, but still. They hated that guy. Yeah, they gave him the terrible job. Oh my god, okay. Whew. Yeah,
the team had their sights set on what needed to be changed and how they were going to do it. For the first time in years, they were feeling hopeful, and even better, players were finally starting to respond with positivity. But right as they were settling into this new reality and finding their rhythm, disaster struck.
Oh no. The tsunami.
For 6 minutes, Japan shook. A 9.0 earthquake had struck 200 miles northeast of Tokyo, and a resulting tsunami devastated coastal regions. What followed was a humanitarian and infrastructural disaster that can be barely comprehended.
Bro, I can't believe Leviathan ruined 2.0.
While the country rallied to help those affected, Tokyo suffered aftershocks and frequent electrical blackouts. I asked Yoshida-san if he'd like to share how this had affected the team.
まあ東京もそうは言ってもすごい揺れたので、やっぱりまあ当日はね、会社に泊まった方が安全だって言って帰らないでずっとニュースを見てるっていう人たちもいたし、やっぱり東北に家族とかね、親戚とかいるスタッフも当然いたので。まあもう正直言うともう開発どころではなかったのは確かにそうですね。で開発なんか優先すべきじゃないと思うので、やっぱりみんな開発者の前に人なので、まあ日本中電力が足りなくなっていたので、まあ本当に些細なのかもしれないけど、サーバーを全部落とそう。その
Yeah, that's a really
まあ少しでも協力できることがあれば。っていうことでプレイヤーの皆さんにも申し訳ないんですけど、サーバーを一定期間止めますっていう話をしてそんな時期でしたね。
It's one of those hard decisions because you can do it one of two ways. You can say, hey, we're going to power down our servers to do what little help that we can, or you can look at it the other way and you can say we're going to maintain our servers so people have something to distract them from the tragedy or whatever. You can look at it both ways, but I think honestly doing that is you know, real what's the word, like not courageous, like I don't know, like endearing, I guess, sort of thing, like respectable.
ただサーバーの稼働を再開してからプレイヤーの方からまあお手紙をいただいたりしたんですけど、エオルゼアの中で遠くにいる友達の無事が確認できた。エオルゼアがあったから電話も通じない、連絡の手段がなかったところ、エオルゼアの中にログインしてきてくれたことで無事だったっていうのが分かった。逆に周りの人たちの情報っていうのも分かったっていうお話をいくつかいただいて、まあ電力が足りなければね、当然サーバーなんて落とせばいいかなと思うんですけど、そうじゃない限りは続けるっていうこともエオルゼアを維持しておくっていうことも一つのなんかサポートなのかなって思った機会でもありましたね。だから続けてくれてありがとうって言われたんですよ、ファイナルファンタジー14を。開発であとは
This is where, when I fought Leviathan, somebody told me that they were planning on having Leviathan as a boss fight, but then they changed it because of the earthquake, huh? And they changed it to King Mogglmog, right? Yeah, because this would have been, oh god, this would have been awful. Yeah.
大きかったのは、実はイフリートの次に戦うボスはリヴァイアさんの予定で、リヴァイアさんをかなりの速度で作ってたんですけど、とてもじゃないけどリリースなんかできないっていう話で、 だからイフリートの後モーグリが実装されているのはそれが理由ですね。急いでモーグリを作り直したというか企画し直したので、いやそんなことはなかったですよ。みんなやっぱりそれぞれのその時期会社に来れない人たちも何日か会社も休みにしてるんで、ただどっちかっていうとその自分たちにできることをやろうっていうみんな感じだった。そうじゃあ全員で福島に行って何か僕らが活動することって意味があるのか、あれだけたくさんの人たちが押しかけてる中でだったら僕らはその彼らが落ち着いた時にゲームを楽しく遊べるように、僕らは結局ゲーム作るしか脳がないので、ゲームを作り続けるのが結局何よりなのかもっていう、
Yeah, like everybody has a job, you know?
しなかったですけど、
Everybody has a
みんなそ
role.
ういう
Your
感
job
じ
is to
で
make games, so
復帰してきてましたよ。
just make the
仕事に
game. Yeah. You're not supposed to be firefighters and like rescue teams, you know? Yeah, you do your job, other people do their job, and together.
Over the coming months, the team would release patch after patch for 1.0. 1.17 introduced 8-player parties and more stable network infrastructure. 1.18 dropped in June 2011 and was a huge patch that made the game much more playable. Level caps lowered for story quests. It added grand companies, class adjustments, instance dungeons, and auto attack. Yes, would you believe this game still didn't have auto attack? It featured a more user-friendly map interface and also scrapped the controversial fatigue system.
And so we need to take this concept that Yoshi-san has created.
Could you imagine playing like any other MMO, but in my case, World of Warcraft in like 2004, and then you go and pick up Final Fantasy 8 years later, and you can't even auto attack? My goodness. My goodness, bro. Pick any other MMO. Shit, RuneScape has auto attack. My goodness, bro.
Make it fit with the current world. Write stories around it, make the transition seem seamless, and then in the new world, make it so that there's still some connection with that old world that will be understood by those core players, but won't alienate new players. It won't be something like,
challenge.
You didn't play that old, the stuff in 1.0, so you're going to be completely lost. Because we don't want to do that either. We want to get new players to come that didn't play the original one, and we don't want to have them have to play the original to understand this one. And so trying to work the story that way was, it was challenging, but it was a lot of fun. We got to try a lot of things. We had a lot of freedom, then especially on the 1.x stuff, because in a sense, it would only be released, seen for a few months, and then it would be gone forever. And so, on one hand, that's really exciting because we can do whatever we want. We can create these crazy stories.
Hildebrand, is that where Hildebrand came in? Right, that's where they were testing stuff. That makes sense now. Okay. Think it's possible for them to fix the FF netcode in a patch in the future and make it as snappy and responsive as WoW? Bro, I have no idea. I couldn't even tell you what netcode means. I got no clue. You're asking the wrong guy. Bro, I got a biology degree. You want to ask me something about bacteria? Sure. Don't ask me about netcode. Are we going fishing? Like, what are you talking about? I don't know. I don't know, dude. I honestly have no clue. I can barely put a PC together, okay? Fish this? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think Final Fantasy's combat, it should stay the way that it is. I love World of Warcraft's combat. And I really am starting to enjoy Final Fantasy's combat. And I'm only level 50. People have told me it gets better when I get more off GCDs. But, like, I don't think FF should be FF. It should do what it's doing, you know? WoW should do what it's doing. So yeah. Ooh, a bio degree. Where do babies come from? Well, when me and your mother love each other very much. Yeah, so I think FF should just keep doing what it's doing. I think WoW is more responsive, more snappy, faster paced. Like I can even go play Wrath of the Lich King and I'm feeling a little bit quicker than I am in Final Fantasy. But a lot of that is to do with the GCD. Even WoW's taken a step back in some regards to its like combat. You used to have uncapped mass AoE and you used to have a bunch of stuff off GCD. But they've reverted that, and they've actually put a bunch of stuff on GCD that didn't used to be. So name every cell in the world. Something along the lines of I only need to name one cell when I'm talking about your brain cells. Bam! Roasted 'em, chat. Zam! Only got one brain cell. Let's go. What's my favorite cell? An incel. Any incels in chat? What's up? We got them, boys. Does WoW have the same level of animation on the attacks, though? Yes and no. There are some very high detailed animations, very exciting animations. Final Fantasy is a lot more sort of... Final Fantasy is sort of like a... fireworks show. Like there's a lot of just shit on the Final Fantasy screen. It's just very like, bah, here's everything. Everything's glowy. Everything's shiny. Everything's... I don't really know how to do another comparison to like WoW, but WoW is not as egregious. But I like both. I mean, you can turn down a lot of stuff with Final Fantasy animations, especially on your teammates, and you can just leave off your own. You can just leave your own on, and you can do like full, partial, whatever. Yeah, John. Maybe that's a good way of looking at it. Like, WoW, you press the button and the explosion occurs. FF is like you press the button and then the firework does the whole thing. Can you imagine the animation if GCD was the same speed as WoW? Exactly, it'd be mental. How does WoW handle network latency? How does a bad ping feel in WoW? Normally, you'll like miss your kicks and stuff. Normally, I don't think ping is that big of a deal in WoW, depending on how high the ping is. Normally in WoW, it's not the worst. If it's not too high. Like if you're playing with I don't know. If you're playing with in like Mythic Plus and you have high ping, you can still like hit your kicks and like move out of stuff. But it depends how high it is, right? In WoW, there's some stuff that you cannot turn off, so players use add-ons to mark their character with an X. There's a couple things wrong with that statement, but that's okay. But there are a couple things wrong with that statement. But that's... I don't know how much to respond to that, because there's a few things wrong there. But... yeah. Final Fantasy players would never use add-ons, would they, chat? No. Yeah, I'll respond to it. So, WoW animations, you can normally, like, most of the time, it depends what environment you're in, but you can pretty much see what's happening with the boss. Like, you'll always be able to see what's happening with the boss regardless of the animations. Like, the spell animations in WoW are not that crazy, where that would block that. But, you don't need an add-on to put an X marker on your head. You can do that default in the game, just like you can with Final Fantasy. So with Final Fantasy, you can put little X's and O's on people's heads. Same exact thing with WoW. You don't need an add-on for it. It's just built into the game. And the reason people have that is for orientation. So it's not necessarily animations. It's the fact that in WoW, say you're in Mythic Plus, you're pulling 10 mobs or like 5 to 10 mobs. And then also you have your group of 5 players, right? Not 4 players, but you're 5 players moving around. Sometimes the orientation of exactly where a mob might be facing can be difficult to infer because you have multiple mobs clumped up together. So you put like a marker on the head, say square, blue marker on the head of the tank. That way you know wherever the tank is standing, the mobs are going to be focused there, so you can dodge frontals and stuff like that, and you can watch out from you can watch out for any positional things that the tank has to do. If the tank has to adjust, you can see that adjustment because you can track the marker. Because like, look, if I could load up WoW to show, but it's like just probably a lot more effort than it's worth. But yeah, that's sort of the way that it works with WoW, but it's nothing to do with like add-ons and yeah. Nothing to do with like add-ons and all that kind of stuff. I know there's kind of like a hate towards WoW because of the use of add-ons, but it's really I think it's massively exaggerated. So no circle on the ground with an arrow? What do you mean? No, we do that too. Look, I'll show you really, really quick. I mean, I can cut this out of any YouTube video if I do anything there, but... Oh, wait, this is going to be classic WoW? No, this is retail WoW. Let me show you really, really quick, just like quickly, briefly, what it looks like in WoW. I'll show you the kinds of things that you can put on, like markers and stuff that you can use. I would never use any add-ons in Final Fantasy XIV. The UI is perfect, and any add-on would be silly to use. He, 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 he. I hope you wouldn't. So, when this loads. Yeah, I've heard pretty much every single Final Fantasy player uses add-ons anyway, whether it's shaders or some kind of boob slider or combat tools, like combat enhancement tools, camera FOVs, like, I've heard some stuff. So these are like feral animations. So you can see here, like, these are my AoE abilities. This isn't exactly too crazy, like, this wouldn't... I mean, this is maybe probably... okay, but, like, I'm obviously not saying every single 100%. I'm saying, like, a large portion, but yeah. So these would be, like, my animations if I'm, say, hitting mobs here. This is probably the most egregious animation. Ignore these spells. This is an add-on I use literally for the viewers to look at, just so they can see what things I do there. But the animations themselves aren't too bad. In terms of markers, so like say I want to put a marker on this mob, I can do like an X marker on that, and I can use like a skull marker. That way we know like, hey, which mob do we need to interrupt? Okay, well we want to interrupt skull and X, and we want to focus target skull down. When skull's dead, we want to focus target X down. And then like you can have various markers. An add-on that people do use for markers is an auto assigner. So every single time you go into combat, it will automatically assign any mob that has an interruptible spellcast with a marker, and then people in the group can say, okay, I am always blue marker. That way, that's their kick. They are always dealing with blue. And then when you're in a highly coordinated group that isn't on comms, so I use like a macro which focuses my target and puts a marker on them. So see how this skull marker is shifting here? This is from a macro I'm using, which allows me to adjust to that. More like in Raid where there's too many spell effects? No. I wouldn't say that's the case. I don't think people do that. You can put markers down on the ground. Unfortunately, I can't do it right now because I'm not in a group, but you can put like an X, like you can put like a skull marker that like pings down on the ground. In fact, actually, maybe I can do it. Is it method raid tools? Yeah. So I can use this. This is an add-on that helps for like making it easier to do, but you don't technically need to do this. Oh, okay, never mind. I'm not in a group, so I can't show you. Never mind. But yeah, that's like the WoW stuff. That's how the WoW stuff works. Yeah, I mean, FF is exactly the same, right? Like, FF, you have a bunch of markers on the ground. I mean, what's the first thing you do when you get to a boss in FF? You put markers on the ground, clock positions, and you mark the tanks. Probably. Yeah, you can turn off other people's spells in WoW just like you can in FF. Yep. You can turn off other people's animations. Yep. You can also turn the graphic settings down so you can actually just reduce them in general, period. So, yeah. But yeah, cool. All right. Anyway, let's continue.
For a few months, so, maybe gone forever. And so, on one hand, that's really exciting because we can do whatever we want.
Dylan's main complaint so far is bosses in FF14 flashbanging you. Have I been flashbanged yet? I don't know if I've been flashbanged yet. But yeah, that makes sense.
We can create these crazy stories, have these crazy characters, all of these crazy situations, and go, balls to the wall. But on the other hand,
to the wall.
We're working day and night on something that only a few thousand people are going to see and will be gone in 6 months.
Yeah, that's mental.
I really think, I look back at it now, I think we did a lot of our best work during that one point. And it's sad that no one is ever going to see that. Maybe, there's some videos up on YouTube where people can still go back and check them out. But a lot of, some of the best stories, some of the most crazy stuff went on during that 1.x period because it was pretty much no holds barred. Anything can happen. We had crazy cults, and you had people from the Garlean Empire. There was,
hold on, is this Emmerich? Uh-oh. Who's this?
Propaganda, giant dragons and machines, and it was just anything goes in type of situation there, and it was just really a lot of fun.
1.19 signified the 1-year anniversary. Players finally got personal chocobos, and in the distance, one light in the night sky burnt slightly brighter, a sign of things to come.
At the very first time, it was just some rumor between players.
I've heard I've heard that people would get during the lead up to 2.0, people's characters, maybe that comes from Noclip and maybe we're about to watch it, but people's characters would witness a cutscene, and then it became rumors where people, let's keep watching.
Getting bigger? No, I don't think so.
This was also when Square Enix announced that an entirely new version of the game had been in development since January, and that current players would receive copies of it for free. They also announced that players' character data and progress would be transferred to this new version, what they were then calling version 2.0. A roadmap for patches was outlined, and it was announced that monthly fees would be reinstated as of January 2012. As an incentive for players to keep playing while the fees were introduced, they announced Legacy Campaign, which rewarded players who paid for at least 3 months of service with permanently reduced monthly fees. Those players would also get an exclusive Chocobo mount, while as a thank you for their support during the redevelopment, their names would be featured in the credits of the new game.
That's really nice.
で2011年
I would pay just to get my name in the credits. Are you kidding me? That's the coolest thing. I'd pay £10 a month to be in the credits. That's awesome. So in 2011, October 14th, that is when we announced around a Realm Reborn is coming.
10月14日にレルムリボーンっていう14を全く新しいゲームとして作り直してますっていう発表を同時にすることでこのままアップデートしていくんじゃないの？一体どうなるのこの先？楽しかったですよ。
That's funny.
1.2 was the final patch of 2011. It saw all the servers renamed, while the moon Dalamud now seemed larger in the sky. 1.21 came in March 2012, introducing a new job system and 2 new dungeons. 1.22 followed in April. Dalamud grew closer, and now some players are beginning to have nightmares. Ominous dreams greet players who log into the game while at an inn. The community all the while trying to figure this out. Is the moon going to destroy the world?
That must have been the coolest thing in the video game. It gets announced, hey, we're doing the new game, A Realm Reborn. And then you're there freaking out, wait, so what's happening to my character? What's happening with this? You've been doing updates on this. What's happening? And then, and then it transferred over to the new game and the 2.0 trailer. Oh my god, this must have been so exciting.
Then how will player data be saved in 2.0? They wouldn't have to wait long for answers. That summer, a trailer revealed that 2.0 would be titled A Realm Reborn, and Yoshida-san conducted numerous interviews explaining the future of the game and the features players can expect. On September 12, 2012, the final patch for 1.0 was released. The game updates to 1.23b, and with it comes an enormous Dalamud, its mechanical outer shell now in full view. Players now realizing that this world didn't have long left. On November 1st, 2012, a final in-game battle began. Square Enix made entry free for the final week of the game, while a haunting song can be heard playing on the wind across the entire realm. While the server struggled to deal with the load, players got together with their friends one last time, as the development team in Japan spammed enemies outside capital cities. One group of players outside of Golda has become legendary, attempting to protect the city with what we now call the Great Gobu Wall.
Holy shit.
Right before Dalamud hit Elzir.
Now it's part of the canon? What do you mean? That's like in the game somewhere that they were there protecting it? Oh my goodness.
We had to do some chaotic situation to the existing world. So what we decided to do is
canon?
to
That's so
spawn
cool.
the strong enemies at the near the main cities. Even when I popped the very strong, I mean, Manticore or the mobile or the giant monsters, players kill instantly.
Right.
Yeah, instantly. Yeah, just snap. So, oh Jesus. So you killed my monster again. So what we can do is just keep spawning the lots of monsters, and then in very late night when I was doing, I mean, keep spawning.
He's just there, just clicking.
Monsters. The one programmer just, I mean, I've never talked to him before, but just coming down to my desk and then just give me a bit of paper with some numbers, which numbers I can understand. This is the number of the certain monster.
Okay.
I can type in so that, I mean, I can spawn a very new, stronger monsters. Right. Oh, thank you very much. It's a programmer. So that was a very fun moment.
You were like playing God.
At first, I felt like God. Hey, players, can you beat my monsters? But no. I was very weak God.
I like this guy. What's this guy's name? I like this guy. He's very cute. In the final day, GM ran around under the name of NPC RPing as a news reporter, interviewing players and making it part of the canon. That's cool. Foxclan or mobile? Okay. He's in live there still. Does he still yeah, so he's still working on the game. That's awesome. I love that. He's usually wants to he's cool.
They were God.
So it was then, on Sunday, November 11th, 2012, just over a year after Final Fantasy XIV was originally launched, with Dalamud hanging in the sky, that the servers were finally turned off. And as they did, a trailer dropped, showing players what was to become of their old home.
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, you had something that not a lot of people liked, and everyone wanted to forget about it. So rather than, just taking that and doing it over, and just reimagining it, why not destroy that and start over? If we leave too much of that original core there, then it will just linger on as that kind of cancer that, will always bring us back to that failure. Why not just clean the slate? But on the other hand, and this is where, things kind of got complicated, is that, no matter how bad the reviews were and how many people bought the game but then left the game, there was still this core of players in both Japan and, Europe, North America, that were passionate about the game. In the state that it was, they were passionate about the game. They were passionate about the series and their characters that they had created and were now living in this MMO. And so, it would have been easy to just say, okay, bye guys, But if you do that, then you've basically alienated the only group that stuck with you, for all of those years. When everyone else is slamming the game and talking about how bad it is, I mean, those guys were troopers. They would go on the forums. They were defending, the development team when a lot of times we didn't deserve defending. So that idea to wipe the slate clean, but not make it something completely new, make it something that was connected in some way to that, to
hopefully part 3 is
game.
all about the
Decision
development
made
of the
by
story.
Yoshi-San to,
I'm really hoping that's what part 3 is.
Bring down Dalamud, destroy the planet, destroy the realm, but then bring it back. Figuring out a way to make that happen within the current story. Make it feel natural. Make it feel like that was always the plan. Was the biggest challenge, I think.
Yeah, more
the
about
team
the
at
devs,
Square Enix have worked themselves to the bone. Not only,
but then that is about the devs. Like understanding what they wanted to do with the story is about the devs. How they sort of reimagined it, what they did, the writing team getting together and figuring out what the hell they were going to do with it.
recreating Final Fantasy XIV in A Realm Reborn, but also by dedicating time and money to ensuring that 1.0 players felt part of that story. The moon Dalamud had crashed into the world of Eorzea. That world was gone forever. And only one question remained. What was going to rise out of its ashes?
That was really cool. I really like the dev FoxClan. Why is he called FoxClan? What is FoxClan? That's awesome, man. We gotta still watch part 3, guys. But we still gotta watch part 3. But oh, that's just like a nickname. That's really nice. I gotta say, I like all of these devs so far. Yeah, that's really nice that the devs gave their respect to the players. Like it feels like this. Just I just love when a game gives me that respect. You know, I think that's, you know, I don't expect like Coca-Cola to respect me as a customer. I don't expect like, I don't know, just like random ass brands. Like I don't expect them to like, I don't expect like Adidas to respect me as a customer. But like when you're playing a game and you're being immersed in this world, in this universe, you want to feel like your time is respected and valued, and that like you as a customer in a game. Like I don't feel like a customer of a video game. Like I know that I am one, but I don't feel like one. I feel just like I'm a part of that of that game. In as least a cringe way of saying that as possible. But you know what I mean? Like I don't feel like I'm a customer playing for a video game. I feel like I'm just like in that world, and like that world just exists. Whereas when I go buy a pair of new shoes, like I know, okay, I'm just buying a pair of shoes. Like I'm this customer. I'm the customer. You're the business. I'm paying for a thing now. Good, cool, done. So whereas like with a game, I feel like I want to be respected for my time, and I want to feel like I'm getting a great product. I don't want companies making video games because they're there because they're going, oh, this will make us a bunch of money. I want them going, yo, I have this incredible idea that I want to bring to life, and if I make the best video game possible, then it, you know, and it sells, then amazing, and we can add to it and continue it and do something new. But like, that's what I want it to be. This is the sort of the way that I used to like watching this Noclip documentary. It just reminds me of like, I mean, it's from what I know, right? It just reminds me of the way I used to feel like seeing Chris Metzen get up on stage and listening to the WoW devs and seeing the passion and the enthusiasm and the sheer just love that they had. And then I don't really feel that anymore since like Blizzard's changed, but like I'm feeling that with FF. That's why I think I've been so immediately connected with this game, is like as I'm understanding it, I'm feeling that. So episode 3. Noclip. The smell of drunken salaryman.
Hello and welcome to the final part of our fantastical tale. We sit on the eve of the rebirth of Square Enix's new world. Almost exactly 3 years after the original catastrophic launch, Eorzea was going to be getting a second chance. But this time, everybody knew it wasn't going to be getting a third.
Oh, did they hit the mark? This documentary only released a couple years after the remake as well.
Once Dalamud had struck, Yoshida-san moved the 1.x patch team into the main team working on A Realm Reborn, taking lessons from contemporary MMOs, feedback from players over the 1.x phase, and elements that worked from the original version. They crafted a modern Final Fantasy XIV, set in a vibrant world that reflected the energy of the franchise. And for Yoshida-san and some other members of the team, this was going to be a very public thing, as they took the short train ride from the office in Shinjuku to Shibuya to take part in a very special launch event.
その渋谷のイベントへ向かうために朝電車に乗ってた。で、少しリハーサルを当然やらなきゃいけないので、少し早めに家を出て、いよいよ発売日かって思いながらその電車に乗っていたらちょうどそのドアの近くに立ってたんですよ。 そしたらそのドアの僕は右側に立ってたんだけど、左側に立っていた男の子、多分大学生ぐらいだと思うんだけど、緑の綺麗な男の子がすっと僕のところに寄ってきて、
No way did he recognize him.
小声で「吉田さんですよね、本当に発売おめでとうございます」って「プレイヤーです」って言われたんですよ。でそんな状況でまあそのイベントを始めて、でまあみんなでそのまあここまで来る話をまあステージでしていて、最後まあマイクが当たってきて話をしようとしたら、その朝そう言われたことをちょっと思い出しちゃって、いやいろいろあったなって思ったら、言葉に詰まっちゃった瞬間にその来てたプレイヤーたち、お客さんたちがこう頑張れって言われちゃって、もう昨日もちょっと話したように MMO って発売してもそれがゴールじゃないスタートなので、なんかあんまり干渉に浸ってる暇なんて本来。
Okay. Yes. Bro, the man's crying his eyes out, dealing with the stress, the pressure, just all of it. And we got Alphino sitting here in the front row.
ないんだけど、思わずこうプレイヤーにこう頑張れって言われたせいで泣けてきちゃって、恥ずかしかったですね。
運営を続けていこうと思います。本当にありがとうございます。そしてこれからもどうぞよろしくお願いします。
So almost 3 years after its launch, released on PC and PlayStation 3, August 27th, 2013. Behind the scenes, Square Enix had suffered a disastrous 2013 fiscal year, resulting in a loss of around 10 billion yen, which is 105 million. Wow. So they funded this game even with a heavy loss. I mean, I don't know the value of Square Enix. What's like the value? What is Square Enix worth? Bro, I don't even know. A share is 5,000 yen, is that correct? Bro, I don't know how to interpret this. The company was close to death back then, if I remember correctly. I don't like that this games company is just sitting on the brink of destruction. Constantly. Currently worth about 4 billion USD. Oh, they're fine, bro. They're fine. Couldn't afford another failure. Yeah. They're fine, bro. They got shmoney. They could almost afford the new WoW Stormhound.
Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn is a great MMORPG experience on both PC and PlayStation 3. Grounded in tradition and learning from the lessons of the games that preceded it, it thrives on the strengths of its excitingly varied and flexible class system and highly mobile combat.
The game's rough launch is mostly over, but you still might have to contend with login errors. But this is, by and large, a very good massively multiplayer game, filled with lots of stuff to do, gorgeous vistas to behold, and lots of adorable narrative touches.
The challenge ahead for Square is to achieve the delicate balance of questing, dungeons, and fates for the second half of the leveling process, as well as it has the first.
Yes. That well-known A Realm Reborn delicate balance of quests, dungeons, and fates. I'm on my 57th MSQ quest today. I haven't eaten. I haven't slept.
but considering the stunning reversal of fortune that Square has achieved here, it seems like anything is possible.
So what was it like then on your end after, years of working on this game, having the launch, basically being required to work on two separate games at the same time, patching one and then building an entirely new one, almost in secret for a large part of it, to then see, what was it like reading reviews and reading message boards when people were like, oh fuck, they did it?
It was, we were just as surprised. Not as surprised because again, it was definitely different. In those months before releasing the original, I knew that the game wasn't in good shape, and so it's kind of, you're lying to yourself, trying to say, no, this is going to be good, they're going to like this part, they're going to like this part, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. But with A Realm Reborn, playing it's like, this is a really good game. You're playing it, enjoying it, but there's still that little bit in the back of your mind that's like, and it's what we were told, is that once the game has been reviewed, even if you try to rebuild it, everyone's going to remember the old. They're not going to look at the new. And Metacritic never forgets. When 14 came out, the original, and it was maybe people were like, okay, I think I'm a hardcore offline Final Fantasy guy, but I'll try out this new one. But then, okay, it's terrible. See, I knew it. It's terrible. They're not going to want to to come back for a second time. So, I already played that. It was terrible. And so there was just this feeling that even if it's
you would
a really
assume
good
people
game,
just wouldn't
no
give them a
one's
second
gonna
chance.
play it. They're just going to brush it off because it's the bad Final Fantasy Online that I tried in beta and it sucked, so I'm not going to play it anymore. And so we were afraid of that. But then, wow, it was just. Servers breaking on, not breaking, but servers getting so packed with people in those first few days, and then seeing the reviews come in, and they saved, and then they start saying things like, you saved the franchise, and you saved the series, and I don't know, remembering what it was like, at their launch of 1.0, and then just being able to, because who gets to re-experience a bad launch? It's something you don't get in the game industry, and
especially in MMOs.
And
no, they made Wrath Classic.
And it was a great experience to be able to say, it was just that vindication of all of that extra work that we had put in. It was what.
I'm currently playing Wrath Classic in my spare time right now, by the way, guys. It's what's known in the industry as a yoke.
Yoshi had promised us, if we worked hard and we did this right, that in a year and a half's time, we can do this. And a lot of people didn't believe him, and a normal person probably wouldn't believe.
And a half.
But maybe that's why we were able to do it, because all of the abnormals remained and made something that was, literally impossible happen.
やっぱりサーバーがあまりにも混雑して遊べない、せっかくパッケージをお金を出して買ってきたのにゲームが遊べないとは何事だ、オンラインゲームだから当然サーバーに繋がらないと遊べないので、なんか評価とか以前の問題で買ってもらったのに遊べない状況を作ってること自体が僕にとってはショック、あんなに来るとはもちろん思ってなかったっていうのも要因ですけど、だから評価云々の前にまずちゃんとゲームに接続して遊べるようにしなきゃっていうことばっかりが当時の1ヶ月半ぐらい出荷を停止したりとか販売を停止したりとか。
They stopped selling the game. Bro, Square Enix gotta be pissed. They're down on their knees. They made a bad game and then they had to redo it and make a whole new game. They had a terrible fiscal year. They're burning. And Yoshi's like, hey, we need to stop selling the product. Do you mind? Yeah, happened in Endwalker 2. They just stopped. Wasn't it something you couldn't make free trials anymore and you couldn't purchase the game anymore? What a cool club. What a cool club. They got bouncers on the front door. You can't come in. Are you serious? I can't come in? Man, that makes me want to come in even more. That's crazy. Poor shipping years for selling the game. That's about all I can remember doing at the time. Crazy. 10K
With most
cubes?
other genres, this would be the part of the story where we fade to black and roll credits, but
Heaven's
such
Word
luxuries
trailer.
don't exist in the world of massively multiplayer online games. In fact, after the release of A Realm Reborn, or 2.0 as they call it internally, the team applied the same content-rich patching schedule they had undertaken with 1.0, releasing a significant 2.x patch to the game every 3 to 4 months. Over the next 2 years, these patches progressed the story of ARR, added in epic raids and new modes such as 72-player PvP battles. But just like before, while the team was working on these 2.x patches, they were concurrently building an updated version of the game, the first expansion pack, Heaven's Word.
2014年の
So a year after the game releases, 2.0 releases, they announce Heaven's
10
Word.
月9月10月ぐらいかな、開発チーム
Maybe.
にも吉田さん申請したら楽になるって言ってませんで
He
したっ
doesn't
け
get you have to hear a lot.
バカ MMO これだけ巨大な規模の MMO は最初のエクスパンションパック出すところまでがスタートダッシュなんだよって言ってごめんねって
Well, I mean, it was, what was in our minds was, you know, not having another letdown. Don't take for granted that the rebuild was a success. We can't just expect our users to say, oh, they're going to release expansion, so we can do whatever we want, and doesn't matter, they'll buy it, ha ha ha. You know, there was none of that sense. One good thing that came out of the failed launch is that it's instilled into, you know, the developers, all of the developers' minds that, you know, we have to always strive to be better. We can't, you know, let our guard down. It's in everyone's mind, and it's always lurking back there. We don't want to repeat that, and because of that, everyone is like always on the top of their game.
Is that still there even now? Because it's been 3.5 years.
Well, I mean, yeah, the old guard, yes, we all have that. We all have that. But it's not all the old guard anymore. People have moved off onto other projects. Some people have left the company to go freelance, you know, explore new opportunities. A lot of new people have come in. And so a lot of people, yeah, don't remember, you know, what happened in 1.0.
I feel like that's a dangerous point in the game, you know, is where the new developers don't understand what it was like to be in the position of the old developers, and then that can potentially cause changes in your game which make it less good. But maybe not.
Because you summer children.
That's right, exactly. And you know, us old timers can tell them, well, back in my day, we did it. And they'll be like, yeah, okay, whatever. And you know, sometimes it does feel like that. There's always the chance that, you know, you can just get too full of yourself and not do 100%, not learn from your mistakes, and that, you know, the community was like, no, we're done. And, you know, we were lucky to be given a second chance. We were really lucky to have that second chance actually succeed. I don't know, third time, I don't know if I want to, you know, press my luck.
I've heard Endwalk is dead, guys. I've heard Final Fantasy XIV
It's not a
dead.
fun situation to be in. The things that I've learned over these past 7-8 years working on 11, the original,
What game
and
is
the new,
this?
and the expansions, is something that I'm going to carry with me to all future projects, as it will with, I mean, all of the other devs that have done that. A piece of that Final Fantasy XIV 1.0, a piece of that, you know, ARR and the expansions will be with all of them, and you know, hopefully they'll be able to use that in all their future projects.
Heaven's Word was another win for the team. Critically praised and loved by the community, it helped push cumulative subscriptions for the game beyond 5 million. In fact, the amount of players in Eorzea has kept rising.
当然上がり下がりは
Is it still rising?
上がり下がりをしながら少しずつ右へ上がっていくっていうのがまああんまり他の MMO ではない曲線なのかもしれないですけど、とにかくゲームデザインでずっとこのファイナルファンタジー14というゲームをプレイし続けていなければついていけなくなるとか、その一度やめてしまったら戻れないっていう絶対にならないようにっていうのが14のゲームデザインの根幹にある。なぜなら今 本当にみんな忙しい。一つのゲームだけになんだろう、毎日ログインし続けられるわけじゃない。それはもともと MMO が大好きな僕ですらそうなので、そう考えた時に遊びたい時に遊んで、メジャーアップデートが来たら一気に遊んで、少し落ち着いて他のゲームを遊んだり、
I think that's really healthy. Yeah, I think that's really, really healthy.
またメジャーが来たらそれでいいと思ってるし、これからの MMO はそうじゃないと多分やっていけない。でやっぱり大きくゲーム1本分の新しい体験が来た時、全員集合して最新のファイナルファンタジーをプレイしてもらいたい。だからそれが基本ベースにあるので、やっぱりそのパッチの間で上がり下がりはする。ただ評判を聞いてずっと増え続けていくっていうのが理想だと思ってるし、14はそれでやれてきてるので、ただもっともっと遊んでほしい、たくさんの人にと思ってるので、チャレンジをまだまだ続けたいとは思ってます。
Yeah.
The latest expansion pack, Stormblood, comes hot on the heels of 2 years worth of 3.x patches, which have added fresh storylines and features to Heavensward. With it comes increased level caps, new dungeons, jobs, raids, zones, and some changes to the battle system. Stormblood will also mark the end of the game's lifetime on the PlayStation 3, but of course in the intervening years, the team has since launched the game on the PlayStation 4. Final Fantasy XIV had been a financial disaster for Square Enix. Subscriptions were turned off for most of the 1.x era, and the company poured significant funds and trust into the team tasked with its rebirth. The importance of this franchise to the company is mirrored by its importance to its players and of course the development team. This is a group of people who have dedicated years into ensuring that this game came back from the dead. Yoshida-san says he only needs about 4 hours sleep a night. I asked him about his social life. He says he doesn't really remember anything except work. He speaks fondly.
That man's got to take a break, bro. Man's got to take a break and enjoy it. He's got to take a little leaf out of his own book. A page out of his own book. A leaf out of his own tree. He said when he dies, bro, 4 hours sleep a night and no socializing. He said he will stop when he dies. I think he just wants this to be his legacy, you know? But
those warriors of light that were saved at the end of 1.0. His respect for fans of this game and all Final Fantasy fans is clear to see. The realm of Eorzea is totally different now. A bustling, vibrant place full of stories, quests and adventurers. A world expanded upon even more with the release of Stormblood. But the old world, the story of 1.0, the fall of Dalamud and the people who survived the cataclysm will always live on. Those who were there, be them player or developer, will forever be bound together by that experience.
Instead of a lot of games will create, these myths for their games, we have a myth that actually happened, but because it happened so long ago and only a few people saw it, most of the new players now, they look at back and it's like, did it really happen? What is this battle with the White Raven on Riven Road? And it was just this grand battle, all different levels and this, dimensional rifts, and it sounds like an actual myth, but it's not just a story we made up for this, it's actually happened. And as the game progresses and new players come on, it's further and further back in history that this really cool thing happened. And so
I'm one of the new players coming on.
That visual works cutscene, I remember watching it and just goosebumps all over. I'm watching with all of these other, like the directors and producers and the director of the visual works, and we're all sitting there and they're all watching, and I'm just watching them I've got tear in my eyes. Yeah, it's dust. And it was that powerful because it kind of encompassed not only what the character went through, it was an image of what we as developers had done as well. At the beginning, we're all, let's do this. It's going to be an adventure. We're like that first cutscene where, with the party that goes out and they have their guild leave and they go out and they fight the Morble, and that's us at the beginning. And then the release hits you and you're down. Then you have that cutscene where it's just like everyone's working together to make something new.
Sick cutscene.
And then it failed, but no, it didn't fail. And you're just, and all of the memories of the past years, the good and the bad, kind of all come together, and just so overwhelming. And that's pretty much the reaction then when we finally released it to the public that we got. I mean, so many people. I just remember the forums, checking out the forums that day. I mean, people were just like, I've been in tears all day. I've watched it 10 times, and to see that, that everyone felt the same way. It wasn't just, the development team. It's that you have this hardcore group of very, very loyal fans that, they believed in the game. We believed in the game. We stuck together. We were able to build, this new thing that's not just for us, but it's opening up the doors for a whole new audience. But, remember, we were there first. We're the ones that, that stood by it, and we're the ones that did this. And, they have the pride in that. Those players, those warriors of light that were, the before Meteor guys, Yoshida-san in interviews will always talk about, those people that supported us, and we couldn't have done it. I mean, it sounds so cliche. Oh, we couldn't have done it without your support. Literally, we could not have done it. Literally, we could not have done it. I mean, if those people hadn't remained, we just would no, let's forget it. We're not going to do it. We wouldn't have put as much effort in.
How many players remain?
It would have
Probably
just
only
been,
a couple thousand, right?
Yeah, whatever. That's just free to play,
Yeah, just send it free to play.
Back when
put it out the pasture.
1.0 came out, and could you have imagined that 3-4 years later you'd be
10K?
in a fan event with thousands of people in Germany?
No.
Man.
I don't really imagine that. Yeah, I mean, one day, we were, always saying one day we want to run a big fun event. We were, actually dreaming to have a huge fun festival in the future at that time. But actually, yeah, we made it. So yeah, that was really great.
Some dreams come true.
Yes, yes.
ただ自分スクエア長いんですけれども、あんまり変な言い方ですけど、会社に対して帰属意識というか、なんかそこはあまりなくてですね、やっぱりゲーム作るって誰と一緒に作るかがすごく大切で、そこが一番重要だなと思っているんで、今回のプロジェクトは本当に組んでみたいというスタッフと組んですごく大きなことがやれて、すごい楽しかったし楽しいですねって感じではい。
強調したいことがあるとすれば、その初日に 1.0 の話をしてましたけど、誰か一人もしくはデベロップメントチームがということではなくて、やっぱり今でも本当に会社自体の大きな過ちが全ての悪い部分がファイナルファンタジー14で出てしまったっていう、それはリリースって意味のデータではなくて、それが全て爆発したのがファイナルファンタジー14のオリジナルバージョンだったんじゃないかって本当に強く思ってるので、でも今14のリバンプを会社全体としてやって15がリリースできて、スクエニは少しずつ変わってきたと思ってるし、
Didn't FF15 get like
もっと変わらなきゃいけないと思ってる。
Okay.
もしかすると少し安心してる人たちも今いるのかもしれないけど、まだまだ変わらなきゃいけないと思ってるので、なんかそのあたりがうまく伝わってるといいなとは思います。これはスクエアエニックスっていう会社が作るゲームに期待してもらってる人が世界中にたくさんいると思うんですけど、僕もそうだったから、でもまだまだスクエアエニックスってこのレベルじゃないじゃん、もっと上いけるじゃんって思ってくれてるはずなので、そのためにはもっと変わらなきゃいけないし、チャレンジもしなきゃいけないと思ってるので、そういった要素も今回のそのお話でうまく伝わってくれると嬉しいかなとは思います。僕らはそういうつもりでやってますっていうメッセージが少しでもね出ていけばいいなとは。プレイヤーの皆さんと会社が望めばそうなってると思いますし、プレイヤーの皆さんや会社が他のゲームを作れって望んでくれれば他のゲーム作ってるかもしれないですし、両方一緒に同時にやってる。
Oh my god. Yeah, Yoshi, maybe you should work harder, brother.
かもしれないし、僕は少なくともスクエアエニックスって今会社のスタッフで自分の会社なわけではないので、やっぱプレイヤーの皆さん、ファンの皆さんがスクエアエニックスに何を期待するのかっていうのを会社がどう考えるかだと僕は思ってるんで、まあもちろん自分で作ってみたいゲームがないわけじゃもちろんないですけど、まあ好きなものを作りたいならね、会社辞めて自分で会社作って作ればって思っちゃうんで、まあ望まれる限りは頑張ろうと思いますけど、ただそろそろね、プロデューサーとディレクターのどっちかは誰かやってくんねえかなって。
Has that happened? Has anyone shared the workload with him or no?
思いますけどね。
No? Oh god.
The
They
tale
did
of the
not.
death and rebirth of Final Fantasy XIV Online is a cautionary tale in corporate hubris. It's a story about the power of humility, respect, and unity. A fun story for those of us who knew nothing about it, cherished times for those who were fortunate enough to be there when it all happened, and a wonderful reminder of something we come across so often in life, the idea that reality can often be even more amazing than the fantasy.
Ooh, what a zinger of a line to close out on, eh? What a zinger of a line. Clap, clap, clap. That was really good. They love streamers over at SE. That's really cool. I guess because, like, I mean, I think that's why it's really important as well. And that's why it's really important that the streamers, like, treat this game with a little bit of respect as well. Because I think that there's respect given by the devs. And I think for me, that's important.